You are listening to a Dynamicworksproductions podcast. This show is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio Network, and many, many more podcast services around the world. You can find all our content, music, videos, books, podcasts, and more on our website, www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Have questions, comments, or concerns for us? Head on over to the social tab on www.dynamicworksproductions.com if you'd like to talk to us. Now, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Fork in Your Ear podcast. I'm your host, as always, author, podcaster, and gamer, Tim K. Trotter. Joining me from... can't think of something witty to say. Failing my intro, we'll just go with the one, the only, Nate Fu. I usually make you laugh here.
You actually made me chuckle a little bit. I was going to say, where intros vanish like a fart in the wind.
Well, if you're opening with something like that, like we've already immediately turned the show into whose line is it anyway?
Right.
Welcome to the Fork in Your Ear, where the conversation doesn't matter.
Sunny Southern California, where winter is 85 to 91 degrees.
It is actually, what is it? It's 56 outside, and it's raining. It is pitch black outside because night has come quickly with the winter.
Oh, that, daylight savings time.
Yeah, that's true. That did happen. That was the thing. It occurred.
All fine and good until you have children.
That's what I hear. That's what all my children friends tell me, including you.
Children? You have a lot of children friends? Something I need to know?
No. The friends hyphen children. Yes. Friends with children.
I get what you're trying to say. Doesn't mean I can't poke fun at you.
No, that's fine. I thought of like an old joke the other day, and I completely have forgotten it now. I was gonna say it. Like in my head, it was like I say something, or you say something, I say something, you grumble about it, and then I chuckle because it was making fun of your
oldness,
slight age gap.
Yes, my oldness.
But I don't remember. So I guess the old joke is on me.
You're the one that walked into the room and didn't remember why you came here?
I guess so. So Fork Fam, I had a weird idea, and we're going to attempt it on this episode, an attempt to spice up the format. So we're still going to be doing the four topics that we normally do, but it's not going to be an entire chunk of the show dedicated. We're gonna spin the ring each time we toss the conversation back and forth between myself and Nate, and we will see where that goes as the rain kicks up on the window outside. Last time it was dogs, right. Now it's rain. So
we just need the cats so we can have the raining cats and dogs.
Oh gosh, I guess. Well, how would we? Okay, so we do need to decide on who goes first. I think we can do a coin flip for that.
I was going to say, you want to play rock, paper, scissors?
I mean, we can, but we could also do a coin flip. All right, heads or tails?
Tails.
Okay. Well, guess who's going first? It's you.
Yay.
All right, we'll spin for you here.
Pull up the East cord.
I have it on the phone. All right. The first topic is technology.
Oh,
Balls in your court.
good timing. We actually um we're going through some technology changes in the household. I am now the final Android holdout in my entire family on my entire cell phone plan. There's been a stark change. Upgrades came due. Phones that were broken need to be replaced, and yeah, the wife and the brother-in-law are leaving the Android family, and iPhone 13 and an iPhone 13 Pro are
Oh,
inbound.
who got the Pro?
The brother-in-law.
Well, you'll have to see one for yourself then.
Yeah, the wife
Fair
got the
enough.
regular 13, and she's not hating it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite an adjustment if you've been in one garden for a long period of time.
Yeah, but she's in education, so she's at least familiar enough with the Mac ecosystem. And then her sister and mother have been Apple holdouts for a long time.
I didn't even think about that because it's
Mhm.
very true. Because I work at a lot of schools, and you see iMacs everywhere, and then you see iPads everywhere.
That was kind of the final push, and then you'll be proud of me. I pocketed my bias, and she said, "What would you do if you were in my situation?" I said, "You want battery life?" She goes, "God, I would love my phone to last the entire day." I said, "Then you're getting an iPhone."
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've never been more impressed with the battery life of a
Right?
phone.
So be proud of me. I pocketed that bias.
Yeah, well, I'm so proud. I'm also uh uh doing the devilish Mr. Burns hand clap and saying excellent.
Excellent.
That yes, that more of the people that I guess no isn't really the right word, but like have met are being coming on over to the Apple side.
Yeah, and before you think that
That you're next.
that I'm next, I actually just happily ordered myself the new Galaxy Z Fold 3.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned maybe getting a fold.
Mm-hmm.
So you're serious. Awesome.
Yep.
I expect you to talk about that vehemently whenever it arrives.
Yeah,
Is
that
it
will be
thoroughly back ordered like every other piece of tech in the world?
Well, I mean, yes, if it depends on where you're going. So yeah, I went to my
Sure.
local cell shop, and they're like, "You can get the 256 gig version," and I went, "Does it have SD expansion?" They go, "No." Then no. Can you order me a 512? And they said, "No,
Does the fold not have SD?
it does not have SD."
That's weird.
Right?
Is it not? Isn't that like a standard function of Samsung phones?
Oh, the last
Really?
holdout for that was the Note series, which is one of the reasons we kept going back to the Note series. Was it was the last Samsung phone on the market that still offered SD card expansion.
Well, if I had to hazard a guess for your camp in regards to the SD card, I would hazard a guess that it's probably because a micro SD card cannot reach the speeds of soldered on NAND flash or whatever the microphone version of NVMe is called.
Sure, but how important is that?
I mean, it depends, obviously. You know,
I mean, I'm
Depends
recording 14-track audio on the fly in what 48 kilohertz, 32-bit, non-compressed RAW format to an SD card right now.
true, but
Right.
that doesn't mean that the data's all going to the card right now. Some of that's being held in RAM, and it's being chunked in.
Sure.
Would be my guess as to how Windows would handle
I mean, it's the same thing with
delivery.
the iPhone. What is it? The Pro Maxes.
Sure.
You could not get it under a certain spec because of the HD video.
Oh, it's actually just the whole Pro line because I have that.
Right.
Because I have the terabyte, which is wonderfully 1.8 terabytes, or 1.08 terabytes. Sorry.
Right. But yeah, you couldn't get it under
Yeah.
a certain, because it was just like, okay, well, if you decide to record HD video on a 256 meg, here's your 10 seconds, your phone is full.
Well, it wasn't HD video. It was their ProRes,
Right.
because it's like fucking 4.5 gigs a minute. Gigs, I
Gigs.
say.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, holy Jesus.
It ain't no joke.
No, it's not.
So yeah, I think it's that. I think it's more aligned with why they're removing a lot of ports. Is there's certain things you just can't make smaller, and
Sure.
a frame for a headphone jack, a frame
Sure.
for an SD card.
Yeah.
You know,
the
they just
sizes,
you can't
the way
you
the
can't
size
get them
is.
any smaller.
Fair enough.
And space is definitely a commodity inside cell phone tech these days.
Oh, of course. I mean, battery being the predominant.
So yeah, that
Hog.
being the case, I went to my cell phone outlet and said, "Yeah, I'll take the 512." They said, "We don't have the 512." I said, "Well, shoot, I guess I'm not buying a phone from you today."
Right.
And then
Yeah.
went, you know what? Let me see if, because you can go to Best Buy, you can go to other outlets, and then have it just, you can have it tied to your account then there in that store. And
Yeah.
I ended up opening the Galaxy store on my phone and went, I wonder if it's available here. Sure enough, it is, with a $250 instant rebate, plus a
That's pretty
trade-in,
good.
with a free wireless charger, a free set of the brand new Galaxy earbuds. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, that became a no-brainer.
So all said and done, what was the final change? Or
1,300.
coinage dropped on it. Okay.
Yeah, because of the 250 off, and then they gave me
Okay.
$350 for my Note 10 Plus in cracked condition.
Okay. And then, because while I read everything, I don't keep an encyclopedic knowledge of that. Note 10 Plus is how old in the scheme of things?
I want to say it's going on its third, maybe fourth year.
3 or 4 years. Okay. I mean, that's not bad, I suppose. Obviously less than whatever you paid for it, I'm sure. But yeah,
Far less.
as trading goes, it's not $40 at GameStop.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what like T-Mobile was looking at. They're like, well, if you trade in a phone with a crack in it, we can only give you like $50 or $100 for it. I'm like, I mean, okay.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that
Alrighty.
should be arriving on the 17th. I actually already pre-ordered the case, and it came in today. Came in same day.
Yeah, yeah. My I think I told you I'd pre-ordered my Razer case for my phone, and it came like a fucking month before my phone did.
Mhm. So yeah, I'll be anxiously awaiting for that device to show up, do the hopscotch transfer of everything. Hopefully, all my my biggest concern is all the authentication apps, 2-factor.
Yeah, so that was a rude awakening for myself. The transfer of pretty much everything to my iPhone was seamless, except for those authenticator apps.
Yep.
And then of course those authenticator apps were like, "Oh, we've sent it to your authenticator." And I'm like, "No, send it to my email or the code to my phone number, please."
Right.
Yeah, I think the hardest one I had was actually my Twitter. Actually,
Mhm.
all my Twitter accounts, and I could not get it. And thankfully, I still have my old phone, so I was able to, figure it out from there. But it was still weird.
Yeah, it's kind of odd how some of those apps work. Like, well, I logged into the same email address and everything on the new phone. It's like, well, no,
Yeah.
but it's tied to this piece of hardware,
Yeah,
which on the security side of everything makes absolutely perfect sense,
sure.
because you don't want someone just, you left your password written on a Post-it note on your desk. Now I'm just going to log into every authenticator app with this. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so,
Absolutely. All right. So my turn. So we will spin for myself. And I'm apparently talking about apparently talking about entertainment. So, lots to talk about of entertainment, but I think the thing that I will talk about that's not listed on all the crazy shit that I posted on Discord this week, which isn't even counting all the Disney Plus stuff that got announced yesterday, which I should have posted about. I've seen Marvel's Eternals. Saw
Oh,
it yesterday. Took my mom for her birthday, and randomly my uncle was in town, so took him too. And because now it's becoming a trademark. So here's the thing with Eternals.
I've heard some very polarizing opinions on the Eternal, so I'm very curious.
Yeah. Well, I would hope whomever you've heard those opinions from, they've actually seen the film.
Yes.
would be my comment on
Yes.
that.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. If you haven't seen the movie, you don't get an opinion in my book.
Right? um so I think I'll start with my complaint list. So my complaint list for this film, I think the biggest things it has going against it, from my own personal perspective, there are some other complaints that I can see why other people have made this complaint. But my own personal complaints are very short for this film. There are two scenes throughout the film that have either bad pacing or they're just way too long in the exposition department.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have been, they just didn't sit right with me on a first time viewing it in the theater type of thing. And then the climax of the film, I felt like in a handful of scenes in the climax, there was both and I'm saying potentially here because, I could potentially be wrong. I could have swore there was some continuity errors where like there's stuff happening and then there's like a dude to the left of another dude and then the camera changed and suddenly that dude was on the other side of the other dude and I'm like, wait a minute. You have that like knee jerk like, hold on a second. Was that just the other way?
Right.
Right there?
That's some rookie shit.
Was that what just happened? Yeah, but very surprising to see on a Marvel movie of all things. And then in that same climax, I feel like some of the scenes were perhaps not the best pick of however many times they filmed that scene.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of them that felt a little messier than perhaps they could have been or something,
Gotcha.
which is in stark contrast to my accolades for the film, because overall, I think the cast is fantastic. I think the score is particularly fantastic.
Who scored it?
Done Raymond Djawadi. I can never pronounce his last name.
Okay.
Game of Thrones, Westworld, did the first
okay.
Iron
Yeah.
Man film, Pacific Rim. I believe he's scored the more recent Gears of War games as well. Like, very, very good composer.
Right. Got some chops.
I liked all the Eternals. I felt like the only thing I could say about them that was even kind of negative was that there's a lot of them. Like you're getting introduced to this whole huge new cast, and
they ensembled it a bit too soon.
I don't think there's any other way you could have done it other than with an ensemble. But I think, like anytime you're introducing a huge cast, you can't, especially a huge cast that's not a Avengers film where you've had singular films. So, if they have a short screen time, it's okay.
Right.
Because you, the audience, know and they built it up and stuff. There are a couple of characters that definitely get shortchanged. And it's like, oh, that person's interesting. Oh, I guess we're not going to see them for more than a scene or two in the film. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
And I personally, is interesting because my father-in-law and his wife saw the film last weekend, and it was interesting hearing the complaints from him because he thought it was quite average, and he's a big Marvel comic fan. But man, I was having a hard time because he was so ready to just spoil everything in the whole goddamn movie, and I'm like, can you just stop, please? So unfortunately, I had both post-credit scenes spoiled for me
Oh,
before I
okay.
saw them, which is unfortunate. Thankfully, the way he worded them did not spoil my enjoyment of the post-credit scenes, both of which are quite big.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I see where people have a grudge or a disagreement with this film. Number one, it doesn't really follow the Marvel template, so to speak, like at all.
Okay.
So that can definitely be a little, you go in expecting a certain thing, and this film is probably not going to give you that certain thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, and then the other thing is that it jumps around a lot in the timeline. Um,
That's one of the bigger complaints that
and
I've heard a
that's
lot.
yeah, and that's something that people hate. But considering the timeline is from the fucking start of the universe
Right.
to present day, it's like there's no other way around that.
Hmm.
Because the amount of time they cover is so vast.
Right.
And then I was trying to sum it up for a friend who's trying to see, like, oh well, should I see it? And I said, well, if the Guardians of the Galaxy are Guardians of the Galaxy, then the Eternals are the protectors of the universe and humanity. Um, because there's just, I don't know, the stakes are pretty big in the film,
Sure.
and by the time the credits roll, it's going to be quite interesting to see the next Marvel films, because this one is going to, uh, the events that occur are too large to be ignored by any of the other Marvel films, unless they just so happen to be taking place concurrently or before the events of this film. So it'll be interesting
Which
to
could
see
be
how.
everything because you said a pretty large swath of time.
Yeah, and I had to Google after the fact because, but there's not any particular, like, the only thing that's known because it's stated is that it occurs after Endgame. Because the events of Infinity War and Thanos and all that
Right.
stuff are directly mentioned as to why the fuck these very powerful people did not intervene.
Right.
And that's addressed several times actually throughout the film. And the reasoning is fine. I wouldn't call it perfect, but it was fine as far as their not interveningness.
Do you think it leaves room for them to expand on that in, let's say, upcoming series that are coming in that deal with, time travel, multiple universes?
which specific thing are you asking? What would they need to deal with? What are they?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but you said there's some weird, like, depending on when this, the time frame that it
Oh,
happened, but
I,
why
I didn't
certain
I
people didn't
didn't
do things.
I guess I didn't finish my statement. According to Google, it's supposed to take place concurrently with Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Okay.
um, which itself is like 6 months after Endgame, something like that. Um, it's I don't know. The events are quite MCU changing by the end of the film. That is for sure. So we'll see where we go. Although I have some pretty good guesses now as to which way the MCU is headed, and that is exciting.
Sure.
This is going to be a strange comment, but it felt more like Zack Snyder's Justice League than a normal MCU film. Could have been the ensembleness of the piece, and kind of there's like a, we have to gather the team kind of thing that occurs in the film. It also could have been the fact that it's filmed much more cinematically and beautifully than most Marvel films. Like, Marvel films are, filmed a very particular way. And I think there's been complaints over the years of like they all kind of follow the same kind of cinematography style to construct a similar language for their films.
All right.
And this feels more different, I guess, So yeah, it is interesting. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think I gave, my out of 10. I'd call it an 8. If there hadn't been some stumbles that felt obvious to me, I probably would have given it a 9 out of 10 personally. Because the time spent with the characters that they do spend it with, I think is well spent for the most part. And, the different new characters are quite interesting. I mean, I was a big fan of the actress Gemma Chan, who plays one of the lead characters in this, because I watched the TV show she was in on the BBC Humans. And it was interesting seeing, 2 Game of Thrones cast members playing so completely different roles from that series.
Sure.
I was like, okay, interesting. I particularly liked, I don't remember his fucking name in the actual movie, but the actor's name was John Madden. He was one of the main Starks in the early seasons of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And he's quite the interesting. He's the dude in the trailer who flies and's got laser beams, kind of the Superman-ish type character. And he was quite interesting throughout the film. And without spoilers, I was actually quite shocked to really, really, really enjoy Angelina Jolie's character. And I think it's awesome that they don't really say anything about her character in the trailers. Because it's quite an interesting... It's a very interesting thing that occurs with her character that I can't recall another superhero movie that has tackled something like what occurs with her character.
Okay.
And it's quite...
And you're being purposely vague, and I can respect that.
I'm purposely vague because it's just, it's just not something I've seen in a superhero movie.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see it play out. So I think, for sci-fi people, if you're a sci-fi fan, people will like The Eternals more because it's a very sci-fi film. Like I said, the timeline's the dawn of time to present.
Mm-hmm.
The scope is the universe, not just, a galaxy or something like that.
Right, or a planet or city.
Yeah, exactly. And what was I gonna say? I lost it. Anyway, but yeah, no, that was The Eternals. I think it's good. I will say though, it's going to be really hard to judge whether or not this is like you should totally see Eternals before you see Spider-Man No Way Home, next month, because I have no idea.
Right.
Like, I have no idea if, who knows what's going to happen. And for that matter, I don't even know when Spider-Man takes place in relation to this film.
Right.
So we'll see. We shall see. Okay, well, let's throw the ball back over to you. All right. We have landed back on technology for you. Do you got more technology stuff?
Well, check the Discord real quick, because I know we were throwing a bunch of stuff back and forth in here. I don't know if any of that was...
The technology's only got 2 posts, unfortunately.
Yeah. The second one, I was a little confused. I didn't actually have time to read it, but what's this? That we have a space station? I mean, another moon?
Which is it, Nate? A space station or a moon?
That's no moon. Space station.
So, apparently on Friday, we've discovered that there is most suggestive scientific evidence that we have another moon. Specifically, it's proposed that it's a piece of our moon that is so large it's classified bigger than an asteroid. So it falls into the moon category. Because I guess on some kind of fucking space telescope Doppler shit, it has the same infrared signature as our moon. And it is presently orbiting the sun with a decay rate of 300 years before it falls into the sun.
Gotcha.
And it is theorized that one of the larger craters on the moon, from whatever space and asteroid bombardment, whatever, that this is a chunk from that largest crater.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, what a weird one, right? So, yeah, that I don't even know what else to say about it. That's just like that's
just
that's a
get a
very
little notification on my
interesting
phone, and it goes, Earth has a second moon for another 300 years at least. And I went, what is this?
right? Isn't that it's such a weird, bizarre title to begin with, you know?
Oh man.
But I guess the fact that it's close to the sun is why nobody fucking noticed it until now. Generally, you don't look at the sun.
Find the moon? Yeah.
Right? You know? So yeah, I don't know.
That, and
The
of course,
speculative science on it sounds
you
fine
love
to me.
to keep throwing stuff in technology about gaming on the Mac. I get it. I get it. I get it. Still not a PC.
There is no other. Well, okay, but well, I mean, we might as well just cover this, and then technology's dead for us for this episode because there's not too much crazy stuff going on other than everything. You can't get anything. So there's been a ton of testing with the new MacBook Pros, and people have been firing up the parallel software, that emulates Windows 10 or 11, and they've been running, x86 PC games, at 160 fucking frames a second and shit.
Right. Emulated.
And flawlessly.
Right.
For the most part. And people are just like, damn.
I mean, is Mac just, are they just fine? They're like, if you can get it to run in parallels, that's on you. Go have at it. We're never going to support this natively.
So we've been over this. The support of the ARM iteration of Windows is on Windows. For their
no, but I mean gaming
their
in
boot
general.
Camp.
Like,
what do you mean?
They're never gonna. You have to do emulated boxes basically to game on a Mac at this point, right? You have to run an emulator, run Windows, then install your game in Windows. Like, is there ever going to be true native support, even if it's, for lack of a better term, and you old folks will appreciate this, a DOS box type.
I mean, Steam's had a native client forever, and when you look at the library on Mac, it's the Mac library, and then there's a toggle that like you can buy this game, but it's not going to run on your Mac,
right?
And then that's a little smoother on Good Old Games, both their website and they've got a platform app now, which they confusingly call Good Old Games Galaxy, which just seems like a Samsung-y name to me, and it's purple and everything. I don't know. It works. That's why I have it. So whatever. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
just weird.
It's going to be interesting to see what occurs though, because if PC games start getting made for the ARM architecture on Windows, I could see that opening the floodgates.
Right. Or if ARM eventually does indeed become the de facto standard.
I mean, it's definitely swinging that way, ain't it?
You keep saying that.
I do. I mean, what else is not ARM? these days.
No, I know.
You know.
I get what you're saying. I'm saying the PC at this point is fighting for its life and still throwing haymakers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's interesting, these analyses on the new MacBook Pros, and just how stupid powerful they are. Some recent ones I saw that were comparing it to the Tower Mac Pro. You know, that's a ridiculous $40,000 machine, and I believe the Pro chip version of the new MacBook Pro, because of course that's a convoluted way of saying everything, but
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah. I
it's
think
just
we went over that the last episode. Pro Max, Pro, right?
Yeah, it's very dumb. We're not gonna. I mean, we can beat dead horses, but that's, you know, a waste of time. But it was outclassing, you know, this $40,000 workhorse of a machine in pretty much every category. And that, of course, was an Intel-based behemoth.
Sure. I
And
mean,
it's
and
crazy.
again, in the life cycle of computing, that's not the first time we've seen new tech come around and just absolutely obliterate something that cost, you know, double, triple.
Yeah, but what was interesting though was they put it up against the new Surface Pro book, Surface books,
Oh,
whatever they are, because I guess
what
one
an
of them
embarrassment
has.
for Windows.
Oh, really? You're
Yeah.
not a fan?
Not a
No?
fan at all. And it's like, hey, look, here's a new Surface Book. We're only going to give you 1366 by 768 resolution.
Oh, I mean, I don't know anything about the resolution.
Yeah, it's like there.
But on the
That,
go
and
ahead.
of course, there yet another version of Windows is coming.
Oh God.
Yeah, Windows 11 SE,
Oh my God. Stop,
specifically
Windows. Can't you just?
designed for Chromebook spec type systems and aimed
You?
squarely at education.
I mean, I mean, no
Just
offense to
stop,
Microsoft and Windows.
Stop.
I'm pretty sure you lost the education war.
Yeah.
Like I've worked in hundreds of schools in just my state.
They're either iPads or Chromebooks, or both.
Well, so you know what I actually, so I, like I said, so I see iMacs for administrative.
Mm-hmm.
I see iPads for classrooms, and then if it's like a computer lab or something, I'll see a fucking Lenovo ThinkPad. You know,
Right.
formerly IBM. So those are what I see personally when I go to these education places.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
all
Anyway.
the schools in my my wife's district. Basically, every student is issued a Chromebook.
You. I'm sorry for them.
Which, well, I mean,
I've never been a fan of Chromebooks.
It does what they need them to do, and everything is integrated with the Google Classroom software. So everything down from grading to turning in assignments.
You know, if your district's set up on that,
yeah,
you know, sure, I guess.
Yeah, it does the job pretty well in keeping everything straight. And then, of course, you know, if you're going to interface into it, a Chromebook is a pretty cost-effective way of doing it.
Sure, there's no doubt it's cost-effective. Nobody, not even me, is not saying that.
Right.
Yeah. Last thing that I can say, because I was talking about the Surface, was that Max Tech YouTube channel did a head-to-head with the new MacBook Pro with the highest end Surface that has an RTX 3080 mobile version or whatever the fuck in it, and it pretty much destroyed it.
Yeah.
And I say pretty much because the Achilles heel, because of the Intel processor, is, you know, as soon as it hits that thermal threshold,
yep,
out goes 50% of your performance.
Yep.
Even plugged in.
Yeah, you still got to dissipate the heat.
Yeah, and you know, then the MacBooks just don't fucking make that much heat anymore.
Right. So, and they're also willing to put a fan in.
Yeah, they got 2 fucking fans in them now. which is wild as an Apple person who frankly thought that they should have been putting 2 fans in them for years because those Intel chips were fucking hot.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, well, let's
Send 'em
slough
again.
off. Let's slough off technology. All right, we have landed on, as I accidentally back all the fucking way out of Discord.
What was the thing?
We landed on live stories.
Hey, yay!
So I guess it's over to me technically because you had the
Okay.
last one, and then I kind of squeezed some stuff in. Of life. What's going on in life? I don't have a lot in that category because my days are rather boring because I can't seem to get work products in for me to do work.
Oh man. Okay.
So, my days have been wrapping up around noon or 1 these days, unless there's some kind of repair call. So it's
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in
I
I'm kind of in that same boat with work. Again, if you've been listening to the last 2 months of the podcast, this night shift is just garbage. Like,
you're a night owl, and
it's feast or famine. Last night was one of those very much feast, but only for one of the 3 people that were working the shift, which was kind of weird because typically it's been the other way around. We all work in different areas, and the shit sandwich finally got delivered to my department. So I had 2 guys basically sitting around watching YouTube and twiddling their thumbs while I'm over here, breaking a sweat. And there's nothing they could do to help me. Like I tried doing a quick training for one of the 2 big jobs that I had. And like he's like, if I can help you out, let me know. I'm like, awesome, come out here.
Yeah.
Let me start training you. We got about 3/4 of the way through the test procedure, and he's like, he turns around and he goes, bro, I don't mean to do this to you, but no, I can't. I can't do that. And to which, I looked at him. I said, I respect that answer because I'd rather have you say no, I can't, than bullshit me, tell me yes, I can, and then possibly blow yourself up here. I said, so don't look at that as a negative. This stuff ain't easy. This is why I'm making, I'm 2 to 3 labor grades over most of the people, that aren't working outside, because it becomes very specialized when you go out there. So yeah, it was one of those, like, again, kudos to you for not trying to bullshit me, because that just ain't gonna get it done. I'm like, you know what, that's cool. I know what you're capable of. Next time I run something, we have similar products. The next time we get one that's the lesser version of this, I'll have you come shadow me. Maybe you can start picking some of it up, and then you can come out here and do these. And he's like, cool. So, yeah. And then this Friday, kind of a bittersweet moment because of that. Like, I've been working with the same 2 guys now for just over 2 months, and they only signed up for this graveyard shift per the original ask. Not through, we got extended till the end of the year.
Okay, I gotcha.
And they're done with it, and I don't blame them. So yeah, this Friday was the last that I get to work with these 2, and now I've got to suffer through a rotation. So you finally find a groove, and you're working with a couple of hard workers, and then who knows? Come Monday, I could get someone that busts their ass too. I could get someone that's just like, nah, I didn't really want to do this, so I'm just going to kind of drag my feet.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting come Monday. But I mean, that's like, yeah, that's been my last 2 months. It's just been this wacky night shift. I don't sleep right. So
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I know you grabbed a coffee before we started recording.
Well, that's exactly why. Because again, I try to maintain this. And I've already had conversations with the boss about November being my cutoff for it. They want to go through all the way through December, which in my line of work,
I was gonna say, didn't they say they were pushing you to the end of the year?
They are. And in my line of the work, the end of the year, it cuts off just before Christmas. because
Sure.
we shut down for the final week between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh yeah, so do we.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, because there's not really any point. I mean,
exactly.
in the construction world, it's like unless something's like seriously gonna kill somebody broken, like
Exactly.
nobody's doing
Yeah, and
shit
same thing. Yeah,
between Christmas and New Year's.
we have people that are on site in case, that basically put out fires. But yeah,
Mhm.
for the most part, production comes to a crawl. And
Yeah,
mostly anyone that comes in and earns that holiday pay is doing mop up work.
sure.
So yeah,
Yeah,
between Thanksgiving, we lose 2 days for that, and then the Christmas shutdown, we lose another 10 days for that between the weekends and whatnot. Um, there's not a lot of push on that later shift.
yeah, I
So
see.
I'm not leaving them high and dry. And I gave them, like, I talked to them basically on the 5th or the 6th this month. So I gave them plenty of notice. It's like, if you can find someone, it, if they can't, so be it. It is what it is.
Sure.
Um, Not to toot my own horn, but my skill set allows them to um, leave me unattended without a lot of risk factors.
Right.
Right. I have 17 years of experience in the company. Probably pushing 10 of those on the high risk stuff. Um, I'm more technologically inclined than most of my coworkers, so that fits in well.
Sure.
So yeah, they know they can. The only reason they actually have to have a second person on my shift is literally if I, had a stroke or a heart attack or something did happen to go
Well,
sideways. They
don't
need.
have either of
Well, no, I
those.
know, but
Okay.
yeah, basically they have someone there to call the ambulance so they don't come and find me, dead at 5:30 in the morning.
Well, I mean, that's why if the company's making you have an iPhone, they should make you have an Apple Watch for calling the ambulance if Just saying, they save lives, like fucking statistically
No, I'm sure.
proven.
I'm
Like
sure.
they're
But
very good about that.
but yeah, so while that's nice for them, it sucks for me.
Sure.
And it sucks for them as far as trying to restaff that shift.
Right.
So I may end up, you know, getting kind of boned on this one just because of my skill set.
Yeah. So I thought of three life things that did occur since the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's a nightmare. There's a stupid thing that occurred with my wife, and then the third thing was that I actually listened to uh, the Whiskey Podcast
Uh-oh.
last week.
Uh-oh. I'm in trouble.
No, it was good. I remember you were talking about me at the beginning.
Yes.
I caught the beginning of it live for a bit, but I was driving around town because I needed to get some concrete epoxy for Monday.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think I was
then I
mentioning on there
missed it, and
yeah,
then I
we
was
have
watching the uh the the DoD version of the stream after the fact while I was driving around town.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, we had gone almost a month without
Yeah,
recording
it'd been
an
a long
episode.
time. Yeah. But I appreciated the shout outs and
Of course.
the kudos it seemed like you were slinging my way for our late night recording of this show.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, and again, I appreciate that. When the schedule shifted, it was like, okay, let's see what we can do to accommodate. And you worked with that. One of the
I mean,
reasons,
honestly,
we
this time
can't do
works out
whiskey
fine.
is because it works around the kid schedule.
Sure. Yeah.
And keeping Wookiee up at this hour, like that's just not going to happen. Not without
Sure, not with his kids.
doing illegal stuff.
Sure. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that makes this one a little easier to get up and record because right now it's like I have to be awake anyways. The wife's asleep.
Yeah. Well, and mine goes to bed around 9 anyway.
Right. Yeah,
because she goes to work
works
on
out for
Sunday.
everyone. Whereas a typical whiskey is either we've been shooting for Saturdays between
Yeah.
noon and 1, with a
Mhm.
fallback of Sunday between noon and 1.
Well, okay, so technical question. How
Mhm.
long is your guys' fucking setup time? Like, how does that, like, if you guys are working around the kids and whatnot, like, how much time does it take to like set up the fucking stream, get the mics in position, get you guys all situated? Because you film that shit too,
10
you
minutes.
know.
We've got that shit down to a science. I unplug the mixing board. I go over there. I've already got.
That's
I
awesome.
I already have the power plug. Your standard three
Yeah,
prong power supply cable. I already have one
yeah.
left over there. I have a USB left over there. I have an XLR cable left over there. So I literally
Damn.
lay down the board, bring my mic arm, screw that in, plug in the XLR cable. We fire up. We have a second PC that has a profile on it specifically for the
Right,
podcast.
right. As you should, especially if you do it as often as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
everything else is like the camera's on a fixed mount. It's on a bookcase, so the kids can't touch that. The lighting is also on fixed mounts. So, yeah, the hardest part is literally plugging in the mix board and my
Hmm.
mic, and then everything else is just log into Windows, fire up OBS. Everything else is already in there.
Fair
So
enough.
when we used to do it outside because obviously we couldn't just leave
Yeah.
it. Even then, we were looking at maybe 25 minutes. Like we had
Yeah,
this stuff down.
that's not bad.
Yeah, I literally have
Oh,
a
that's
a
cool.
podcast in a bag.
Yeah.
And we are next weekend. We're actually going up to Paso,
Uh-huh.
do some wine tasting. And
Oh,
I'm probably going to bring the
fun.
board with me, and we might record. We probably won't do it live, but we
Oh,
might
that'd be
record
awesome.
one.
I mean, not yeah. It'd be difficult doing a live thing, but recording one while you're doing wine tasting sounds
Mhm.
fucking awesome. Oh man, if I could drink wine again and live near you, I would totally be down for that. But alas, grapes hate me.
Yep.
Oh man. So, of the disconcerting variety, I had a nightmare this week, which may sound dumb to bring up, but it was like one of those like totally plausible real nightmares. And it was about because my folks are currently in the process of moving to the other side of the state, and the nightmare was that they finally moved to get over there, and then dad kicks the bucket in a year, and
Mhm.
then I have to figure out and be an adult and figure out what to do with mom,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh man. And I had like the whole like linear sequence nightmare of like, okay, well, dad kicks the bucket, whatever is what it is. And it's like, because it's been stated to me many, 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 many times. Um, you know, mom doesn't really want to be over there, but she's going because that's, been the plan for a long time, I guess. And that's what you do when you've been married a really long time,
Right.
And then she's also stated that when me and Jessica, have a kid, which it's looking at like fall 2022 to uh
Ooh.
2023, more realistically probably the start of 2023 is when the attempts will be made.
So you're just still practicing at this point.
Still practicing, is that what we're calling it?
Doing dry runs.
Sure. If that's what you want to call it, practicing, okay. Yeah, and I heard your weird little giddy shaking your rubbing your hands together in excitement.
Oh, I am. I mean, obviously, all of my horror stories haven't scared you off of that. Oh.
I mean, fuck, how old am I? Think about that for a second. Am I 33 or am I 34? Or am I 32? I honestly, I don't even fucking.
What year were you born?
88.
There you
Don't make
go.
me do math on the show. It's a bad thing.
33.
Okay,
Going on
33.
34.
33 going on 34. Like I've had some experiences in my life, not
Mhm.
necessarily involving the rearing of children. Uh, Sometimes in the care and raising of children, but not
Sure.
like, whatever. But no, it's like it's gonna happen. Like, and according to fucking everybody I know, again going back to the start of the episode, the friends hyphen kids.
Mhm.
um, you just have to get through those first couple of years, apparently.
Yeah.
And then it gets a little better, and then I guess it gets shitty again as you head towards teenager,
Mhm.
and then maybe it gets better, maybe it doesn't after that.
Right.
So,
So,
I don't know.
like a wind-up
So
way, you just gotta point it in the right direction, and every now and then you gotta steer it off a wall.
sure, but getting back to the nightmare, because
Mhm.
we went way off tangent on that. You know,
Who us? No.
right? Um, yeah, I went through the whole gamut, and then it was like, she's like, "Well, what the fuck I'm gonna do over here on this fucking giant property? This ranch-like property, like by myself? Fuck that." You
Right.
know, um, because she was born and raised a country girl, and then moved to the city because she hated the fucking country. You
Mhm.
know, um, and so when inevitably they, or I guess dad, decided that he wanted to move back to the country because he's also from the Canadian countryside.
Mhm.
You know, her expletive deleted comment was, "Why the fuck would we go back to the country at our old age?
Right.
Like, what the fuck is the point of that?" But whatever. But like, no, I went through the whole thing, and it was really weird because like I was really just really there was like this recognition in the dream, which is stupid, of like I'm finally doing okay on my own. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously not entirely on my own since I have a wife and my co-heterosexual life mate with with Brock over there in the other room. You know, um, but it was like hitting to me that like at some point, and then more than likely, because my dad has a lot of health issues, he'll go first, and then I will have to do something with mom. And it's like, oh, fuck. And it's like, I don't know, and I like, like I saw her yesterday, for her birthday and whatnot, and we're probably gonna get together again coming week. Um, we'll have a viewing of Shang-Chi. Um, and like it's weird because like, I just saw my grandma who turned 90 this summer, and obviously she's, 90 and tiny and frail and all that sort of stuff. And like I'm starting to see that like my mom is like thinning and getting frailer, and it's like it's weird.
Yeah.
I
Watching
guess.
people age is kind of tough.
Yeah, it sucks, and it's,
And especially
and
if they have health issues like, dad.
well, my mom doesn't. So
Yeah, then
that's a good thing.
yeah.
But, and will probably most definitely live to 90 and beyond, because for mom's anything, and she's still, got all of her, constitution and mind and stuff together, at 90. So, I'm sure my mom will be bugging me when she's 90. Well, yeah, for sure.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, no, not at all. Um, so yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't know. It was
it
just a
sounds
weird.
like part nightmare, part existential dread.
Sure, yeah, and it was one of those nightmares. I like woke up early that morning, and I was like fucking cold, flop sweating, and I was like, ah, Jesus,
Right?
you know. And it was just so stupid. In sharp contrast, as I segue to the third thing, of this stupid thing that occurred with my wife midweek. So we have an agreement, you know, as a 5+ year couple now married,
Hmm.
of she handles the spider killing, I handle the getting rid of the bees. And thankfully, since we moved to this house, the spider incidents have gone down to the, below 10% margin, which is fantastic in comparison to the 90% margin that it was over at my folks' place.
Right.
And so I had just taken my contacts out and get ready to crawl into bed.
Mm-hmm.
And the lights are still on at my sink. And my contacts are out, and I'm whichever the site it is where you can only see close up.
Right.
And I see this like black dot, this fuzzy dot, in my terrible vision, like move across the wall. And I freak out because I see that it's moving and recognize that it is not nothing. And so I freak out and I call her over. And so we also recently got into this new rule because the ceilings of this house are, I don't know, they're the vaulted ceilings. So they're like 14 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
They're very tall ceilings. And my wife that you've met is 5 foot. So if it's, if it's above 5'5", she's not going to make an effort to kill the thing. This is like light switch level. So like 4 foot. And call her in, I'm like, is it a spider? Like, what is it? And she's like, oh, it's a spider. And she's like, oh, it's a weird one. And I was like, okay, I don't want to hear that it's a weird one. Fucking kill it. And she's like, okay, let me get a shoe, and she gets a shoe. And then she's like, oh, and I'm like, what? And she's like, it's like wiggling its butt. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Kill it. And she's like, nuh-uh, it's creeping me out. And I was like, fuck you. It's by the light switch. It's within your height. We had an agreement.
It's in your wheelhouse.
And she's like, you kill it. I was like, I can't fucking see. Like, and then she's like, well, put your glasses on. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? So I put my glasses on. I take her fucking shoe and I fucking smash it and kill its fucking guts all over the place. And I'm just like, what fucking good are you, wife? She's like, I'm sorry. It was wiggling its butt. I've never seen a spider wiggle its butt. I was like, I don't know why it wiggled its butt. Maybe it was carrying fucking brood eggs. That the webbing comes from its butt. I don't know what it was doing.
It was getting ready to replicate.
I don't want to know.
Gonna give you different nightmares tonight.
I don't want to know. But on that topic, it is time to spin the ring, and there's actually another funny spider thing in a different topic for me to talk about if we ever land on it. Which I hope we do, because I feel like we've pretty much exhausted life and technology.
Life is exhausting.
Facts. All right, we have landed on video games, and the ball is in your court, Sir Nate.
Well, are we going to talk about the elephant in the room that might actually be post-podcast shenanigans?
Oh, of the speedy variety?
Of the very speedy variety?
Of the dangerously good-looking variety?
Dangerously good-looking is not the words I would use. Absurdly realistic.
Right?
So
we're talking.
Have you been playing the game that I've been playing all week?
I've seen that you've been playing it all week. I'm very impressed that you've been playing something this week.
Would that game be Forza Horizon 5?
It sure as shit would be. I've clocked about. I don't know how the in-game clock works specifically, whether it counts when you're in menus and stuff, because obviously there's a fuck ton of menus in this one.
Yes.
I've probably put. I'm gonna guess I've put at least 5 real hours into playing it throughout the week.
Okay. We're probably right about the same pace.
Yeah, I popped it in on launch night at 9:00 for just a quickie, just because I was curious, because I've been seeing screenshots on fucking Twitter the whole time, and I'd been hilariously showing them to my wife of, is this real or is it Forza?
And what was funny, like you were telling me you had popped in and played it, and I've
Yeah,
actually been
fuck.
playing it via cloud
Oh,
through Xbox, and it wasn't
yeah.
available on launch day until exactly midnight.
Oh, that sucks. Because
It
on
was,
Game
yeah,
Pass, it was available directly at 9.
right. So maybe
So
that was a server thing, but
could be,
thankfully,
could be.
because the work the work schedule I have, and when things got kind of slow, perfect timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
So
I got a couple hours in that first night, just kind of tooling around. I
y-
will say,
yeah.
um, as far as cloud experience goes, I've played a few games via it. One of them being the shooter
Mm-hmm.
Destiny 2. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is not very responsive. It is very difficult to drive a car at high speed.
I
With
bet.
there is ridiculously noticeable input lag.
That is
And I
unfortunate.
was very, very kind of upset by that because it's not complex like you would think a shooter would be.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, the difference is, Forza's most assuredly pushing more stuff per frame.
But that's visual. We're talking input,
Sure.
right?
But in terms of its speed at which the game is running,
Mhm.
you know, one thing that I've said from the get-go with this cloud era that we're entering for gaming, racers not a good fit.
Mhm.
Not a good fit at all. What I would say to you though, if you are playing it on the cloud, um there are sufficient crazy assist toggles for this
Oh,
game
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that will significantly reduce any input lag
And, well,
because the
that's
game's
kind
helping
of
you
what I
out.
resorted to doing. Like, I ended
Yeah.
up turning the AI down to, I wanna say novice.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, put on brake assist, put on like, I was only getting 5% bonuses
Mm-hmm.
because of how many assists I had on just to kinda
Yeah.
tool around,
Yeah.
and that was it. Like, visually, it was worth it just to kinda cruise around, and then I, did a couple of events, and then I got home that next day and fired it up on the
Mm-hmm.
PC.
Yeah.
Oh, holy heck. Um, yeah, the I was greeted to a message when I first logged in on PC that says, "You haven't won any races. Would you like to reduce the difficulty even further?"
Oh yeah, the old
Right?
you're not good enough at the game. You want us to lower shit down pretty
Right, and
good?
I was already pretty low, but this was again because of the input lag and whatnot. I was
Sure.
spending time in walls and off road more than I was spending it on
Mm-hmm.
track. Um, and I went, "No, screw you."
Sure.
Um, and then began playing. Took off a couple of the assists, began playing, and then I think it was maybe 4 races, and it says, "You seem to be outpacing your opponents. Would you like to bump the difficulty back up?"
Fair. Yeah. So playing on PC, um, other than the graphics, which I think we could probably both talk about ad infinitum forever, because holy fuck,
Mhm.
is it a good looking game? And I've already seen all the Digital Foundry stuff. I haven't fired up Forza Horizon 4, I guess I should say, since
Right,
this is the specific subcategory of Forza game that we're talking about. Just to compare, and it's no comparison,
right.
which is hilarious because historically I've always thought, as I've dabbled in the Forza games over the years, that Forza is just generally it's always a really good looking
Mhm.
racing game, and now it's the kind of racing game that's so ridiculously good looking. Um, I would 100% point to this game every time and be like, fuck you, Sony heads who are always talking about their first party games that admittedly have fantastically optimizedly, perfectly looking, realistic graphics.
Mhm.
And it's like, fuck you. They're doing this open world at 200 miles an hour,
Mhm.
60 plus frames a second
Well,
with ray tracing.
and this is
Like,
one of
what
those
the
things that I've been
fuck?
hearing a lot of. Like, a lot of people have been like, "Well, Gran Turismo looks better." And one, no, you're
Well,
wrong.
Thank
Um,
you. I was going to say that
right.
if you weren't.
First off,
first of all,
sit
no.
down. You're wrong. Second off, Gran Turismo's a sim.
True.
It should. It doesn't. It should look better than a
Sure.
simcade racer.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is the
and if
mainline
Forza 5
Forza
is setting this precedent, I am like walking funny thinking of what the next Forza Motorsport is going to look like.
Oh God!
When they don't have to dedicate resources to the open environment.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the next proper main Forza, which is the direct competitor to
Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo, which many Gran Turismo fans would even admittedly say Forza surpassed it several releases ago.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. The next main Forza is going to be insane. It's going to be insane looking whenever that.
Yeah, because you have a closed track environment that you can basically pre-render all of the environmental assets.
Sure.
You don't have to do that on the fly. You can dedicate all of that overhead that you're currently
using.
Well,
you can load the whole fucking thing into RAM.
Yeah, you could load the entire track environment and then dedicate everything else to your ray tracing.
Yeah, I think the ray tracing will probably hit harder on that one because I know for a fact that on the Series X, the ray tracing is limited to certain objects, which makes sense in an open world. I think the thing for me, though,
I've seen
so
screenshots where people were showing that the environment was rendered in the chrome on the center caps of rims with ray tracing enabled.
Have you seen the cactuses in this game?
Oh, yeah. Intimately.
Why
as they go flying over the windshield of my car.
Does a cactus look so goddamn real? You know, I've seen lots of cactuses in real life, and that's what they look like. Like, they're so stupid real looking. I'm just like,
have you actually bothered to take something out into photo mode and see how much better it looks?
Oh, of course. Yeah, where they bump up all the detail. Yeah, it's interesting because the game looks amazing while you're playing it, but if you turn it into photo mode, obviously because of resources, they basically switch off the open world rendering engine and render everything up to 11.
Right.
It's fucking.
And that's why I say, could you imagine that
I can't.
Photo mode? The in-game mode now in Horizon 5 is probably on par with the photo mode of Motorsport or even Horizon 4.
It's just insane.
Right?
Like, there's just no two bones about it. The game on modern consoles and PC, on a decently spec PC, I guess I should say, looks beyond incredible.
Yeah, I have very few settings turned off of Ultra.
And then, you know, sure, graphics is one thing. But now that I've warmed up to the particular play style of Forza Horizon 5, the game's really fucking good. Like, I know it's been getting 10s and 9s and stuff, and I'm generally a racing fan, particularly of this Forza Horizon style, which itself originated from Burnout Paradise, which is probably one of my favorite racing games ever. Man, it's just a good looking, sounding, controlling, playing, loading racing game.
Right.
This
is the first one that I've played I've played 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I didn't play a lot of 3. And it was interesting because I went looking for it on Game Pass just out of curiosity. It's actually not on Game Pass, which was surprising.
I mean, it's not. It was kind of... It got outclassed by Need for Speed. Need for Speed was a better arcade racer. And that was squarely where Horizon kind of sat, was an arcade racer.
Sure.
Or, I want to say, brought the term simcade into the lexicon, right up there with, I want to say it's Project Cars was another one.
Yeah, but Project Cars wasn't good.
Right.
That's the big thing.
There's a few of them, and some later Need for Speeds that kind of push that genre where customizing a car would actually do more than just visually enhance it. And it wasn't like,
Sure.
you know, here, load 15 barrels of nitrous onto your car and boost for 2.5 minutes, right? That was your arcadey
Yeah.
racer.
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting game, especially because it is the 5th game in the series. Obviously, it's an evolution,
Mhm.
not a revolution of the series, and it does, have its bones back in Burnout Paradise.
Mhm.
The only thing I wish Horizon 5 had that it doesn't is if it had Burnout's level of damage to your car. That's the only thing I wish Forza Horizon had.
Right.
And
Not just you wreck your car and it goes, oh, you did bad. Here, reset.
yeah, and you break
'Cause
your windshield, and if you're playing in first person, your vision's all fucked up.
Oh, well, you
Or
can do
whatever.
that. You can turn it on damage to simulation, and you will get broken windshields.
There's an option for that,
Mhm.
Nate?
You have damage that's just strictly cosmetic,
Oh
and then you
man,
can
I
bump
didn't
it
know
up.
that. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm playing whatever default is.
Yeah, it's cosmetic.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and you finish a race where you've been a little aggressive, and you see some paint rubs, but nothing substantial. And if it's
So
anything like Motorsport
you're
was,
ta-
if it's anything
you're
like
telling me
Motorsport is, when you put the damage on simulation, you could literally crawl across the finish line with no fender, a busted headlight or a busted windshield, maybe missing a tire. You know,
really? Well, fuck me. I gotta turn that
well,
on.
don't race aggressively then, because you will pay for it.
Well, I guess we'll find out how I race after the show.
Your by the way, your Drivatar,
Oh, yeah.
it's got some skill.
So I've dabbled in these games. I'm not an expert.
Mhm.
What the fuck is the Drivatar? Like, I know it has something to do with ghost data, but
Mhm.
is there like I don't understand how it works. Do you understand how it works?
Yeah, it basically it is ghost data. It takes takes your profile and your racing tendencies, um,
Uh-huh.
and if you are particularly adept against your competition, your Drivatar will be more adept in races. Obviously, it's going to be capped by whatever difficulty slider you have, but your
Okay.
tendencies will still exist. So if you ever like
Interesting.
I don't know if you've come across my Drivatar in games.
In the very beginning of the game, I did, and I fucking sideswiped him and passed him.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, no. Yeah, he was a dick in my game too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like now,
Yeah.
because I put some hours into it. If you come across my Drivatar, and anyone else that's on my friends list, if you come across my Drivatar, I'm sorry, he will try to put you into a wall.
Interesting.
He will take unorthodox lines, and he will pass you.
So it's interesting because these Drivatars sound an awful lot like the Amiibo fighters from Super Smash Brothers,
Mhm.
of which I'm a huge fan of because you train them and they follow all of your own
Mhm.
physical fighting tendencies. So question. So these Drivatars, obviously there's data and all kinds of cloud exchange and all this sort of shit going on. So is it only people who have Horizon 5? Or is it anybody from your friends list and it just generates some shit?
That I'm not sure of, because I've
Okay.
seen some names on there that I haven't seen online, and I don't know if it
Sure.
is that they collect data from from Forza Horizon 5 specifically, or if they
Yeah,
have
because
a
hypothetically they
cadre
got.
of data from Motorsport 4, 3, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say, I suppose. Okay. Well, interesting.
And
Very
there's
interesting.
there's the few in there that I see that actually have, because I guess it shows your level number. At first I
Mhm.
thought it was a racing number, and then I'm like, no, there's a lot of ones on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends on the list that are already like rank 45,
Mhm.
which consider I'm playing in the first week. Just I hate to think of how many hours or how much experience they have with the franchise to have achieved that so quickly.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
They're doing all skulls on basically.
All skulls on. I love the reference. Yeah, I mean, the long and short of it is Forza 5 is absolutely as great as everyone is raving about. And yeah, it's kind of insane that this game engine and this team is the one who's doing the next Fable game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, obviously the next Fable game will have open world because this is what the Forza Horizon team does. And B,
It's the
that
same
game is
engine.
gonna look like fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's using the same engine.
It's gonna be absolutely insane. And it's not gonna be, I assume you'll probably have a horse in that one at least, but regardless, because you're not gonna be pushing the speeds that Forza is with
Right.
the open world, that game's rendering at close or running through a forest or something is gonna fucking be mind-numbingly stupid.
Mm.
Um,
And the lighting.
Stupidly good looking, yeah. Lighting alone, like fucking
I just like I
reflections
can't
and
imagine
swords and puddles and shit. Probably is gonna
I
be
can't
nuts.
imagine coming across an armored enemy in the dark while you're holding a torch, like
Oh,
lighting
which
through
is
trees, reflections.
which is hilarious to me because that was the promise of the original Fable.
Mhm.
That, of course, didn't deliver it.
Right.
But I digress. Yeah. The shit. What's the team's name? It's
Not Turn 10.
Playground Games.
Playground Games. Yeah.
Yeah. Turn 10 is Forza Motorsport.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Super excited to see what they're gonna do with Fable, given that it seems like they've hit a certain echelon of like. So this is gonna be the most stupidly douchey comment. Saying this as an Xbox fan, even though I do obviously love some PlayStation games, Forza Horizon 5 could easily be a PlayStation game. In terms of like a PlayStation branded game in terms of its quality.
Mhm.
It's absurd, it's
And
above and
again,
beyond.
as
It's
the
nuts.
Xbox wonk in the room here, it's about time.
Oh, I agree. I'm with
Right.
you 110%. And
I will concede that PlayStation has
yeah,
held the title for beautiful games.
sure. And now every time for probably many years, even if there's not another good looking Xbox game coming around the corner, I'm gonna point to Forza Horizon 5. I'm gonna be like, "Fuck you."
Well, yeah, and if Fable can build on this kind of fidelity,
I think it
yeah.
will. I think there's no way, because if they've been making games at higher and higher fidelity for 5 games now,
Mhm.
and then they get the chance to do not cars, which I'm sure will be exciting to the developers. Yeah, they're probably going to come out with a lot of gusto. Whether or not the actual game will be good is an entirely other caveat, given the fact that you're going from racing to a third-person action simish RPG.
Mhm.
Very, very different. I mean, the only thing we can really count on for sure is their engine's going to be fucking phenomenal.
Mm.
Their art's probably going to be phenomenal, and then their open world design will be on point.
Right. But their gameplay could very easily, and I hate saying this, could very easily new world in a hurry.
And I take it you're using that pejorative to mean it's not great.
It's not doing great. They're actually now merging servers to keep player base up on them, which is causing a whole nother slew of issues. Like, you may have been you may have had a firm grasp on a territory on your server, but we merged the two, and you no longer hold it. So, yeah, I don't really know what the issue is, other than the consensus on that game was there's no end game.
Sure.
So most people have ground out the most that they're going to grind out, and they're starting to move on. And that game, and again, that game is beautiful, beautifully rendered, beautiful environment, beautiful open world. But that wasn't enough to keep people around.
Fair enough.
So yeah, Fable could suffer that same fate. You know, it could be the
Yeah,
most beautiful
it's hard
game
to
in the
say.
world, but if you don't have the gameplay to back it up,
So, speaking of that, and since it's kind of on the topic of the playground games, Forza, I saw a tweet from a Forza engineer on Forza 5, and he was talking about how he was so excited that his engine is powering Fable. And then somebody asked him a question, and on Twitter he answered this, and I don't know if he was supposed to answer, but then he also said that they've been working on Fable for the last 4 years.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh? And that in my mind means A, taking their time because it's also a new genre. So I'm sure there's a learning curve for some of them. And then B, that also tells me 2022?
sure. At the worst, Christmas 2022.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Exciting,
All right.
exciting.
Indeed. It has spun, but we landed back on life. Spinning again, landed back on life. All right, fuck it. Let's just toss it. Do you have any entertainment things to discuss?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to. You know, this whole week I've been just batting ideas around in my head, and they've all seemed to have fallen out in my lack of sleep. I know we did post the Weta Digital VFX studio. That's exciting.
Sure. Which could easily be in video games. Do we want to talk about that?
Definitely. Like that's, you know, very little is known over what assets are trading hands at this point, but having the digital VFX studio behind Lord of the Rings getting into
so
game development with Unity.
So it's interesting. So Peter Jackson, who owns Weta Digital, and Weta Digital, if you didn't know, like Nate said, famous for doing the special effects of Lord of the Rings, but they're also probably the second best special effects house behind ILM on the planet. They've done everything from Alita Battle Angel to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame.
Avatar, Shang-Chi.
Avatar, right. Shang-Chi, you name it. They probably had something to do with it, if it's, you know, marquee title. They're very, very, very good. They're basically of the same caliber as ILM. They just do different techniques to achieve the same result, if that makes any sense. But he has sold Weta Digital, very interestingly, to Unity, the game engine company out of, I believe they're out of, Stockholm, Sweden, I believe. I think. Yes?
Not sure off the top of my head.
100%.
But yeah, like, you know,
I'll look it up.
Unity would be maybe the only real competitor to the Unreal Engine at this point.
Sure. And
as far as open source development, yeah.
And I would argue that they're behind the curve by a generation, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
For example, Unity powers a lot of famous games from Pokemon Go to Hearthstone. Interestingly, doesn't use a proprietary Blizzard engine. A lot of good games have been made with Unity, and Unity is getting closer and closer to parity with Unreal Engine 4, in my opinion.
Right.
Not being a game developer, sideline. That's my personal opinion, thoroughly labeled as such. Even though obviously Unreal grows by leaps and bounds with how advanced 4 is, with it getting into filmmaking, and then obviously we all know Unreal Engine 5 is very advanced with their nanite tech. That's fucking a game changer for sure. But
yeah, could you? I mean, imagine that you're right there behind Unreal, and you just basically upped your fidelity with Weta's techniques, their VFX techniques. You can, I mean, it's gonna make you a legitimate second place, and there's nothing wrong with being legitimate second place. If you, you know, back in the '90s, you were the second best ISP to AOL. It was pretty damn good.
So some background stuff. So I didn't actually know this. So Unity is a cross-platform game engine. It was originally announced and released in June 2005 at Apple Inc.'s Worldwide Developer Conference as a Mac OS X exclusive game engine. Obviously, it has been since worked on and continuously supported desktop, mobile, console, virtual reality platforms. It's particularly popular in iOS and Android development because of its low CPU overhead. I did not know this. Apparently, it powers Call of Duty Mobile, which is interesting to me. Because I played quite a bit of Call of Duty Mobile when it launched, and I was like, oh, this is really good. It kind of seems like they're just using the old Call of Duty 4 engine, which would make sense since it's old and would run fine on a cell phone these days. But I guess not. It also is used in the automotive architecture and United States Armed Forces.
Oh, for their simulators, yes.
Yeah, apparently. So it...
Yeah, it's funny that you say that's used in the automotive industry, considering like a lot of the new Unreal 5 demos have been really heavily pushing automotive application.
Interesting, yeah.
So, I mean, that tells me if Unreal is bothering giving that attention, Unity's probably got a pretty good stronghold in that.
Sure. Well, but it's like you said. So with them acquiring Weta, and I read the press release on this. So Weta is still going to be Weta, but what is going to happen is going to be, for lack of a better term, a unrealification of the Unity game engine. Weta has a huge source library of, scanned art assets and their own 3D modeling and rendering software and techniques and stuff. And all of that stuff is going to be incorporated into Unity proper, which obviously don't know the timeline on this, which will for sure put it on complete parity with Unreal Engine 4, at least, which already has its asset library browser. With Unreal acquiring Quixel Megascan years ago, and that's used to great effect on The Mandalorian and all the digital set photography and stuff. And so Unity's really going for it, and they're like saying, "Hey, these asshats over at Epic making all these weird, colossal public mistakes. Unity's just trucking along over here."
Right.
Which is only good because competition breeds innovation. And it's good to see them take a huge swing like that and say, no, we really will be, if you're not on Unreal, you're on Unity kind of step.
Yeah, and they're really doing that.
Good.
Like they're not playing favorites. They're equally courting Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, all the platforms. I guess they're getting a lot of attention from Nintendo for the Switch platform. And they're getting a lot of attention from VR application.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting. That's for sure. I think it's a really good thing. I've always thought Unity was a very good game engine, but like you said, they always have kind of been playing second fiddle. There's always just some weird things with Unity that obviously are better on Unreal.
And I think another thing that Unreal has is the Epic market presence.
Sure, I mean,
you develop something good in Unreal, and Epic will put their weight behind it, where Unity doesn't quite have that clout yet.
Sure,
they don't have that
avenue.
Is
definitely that. I would say that's a difference. Whereas Epic is a game company first, game engine company second, even though that's arguably the larger business for them.
Right.
Whereas Unity is only an engine company, to my knowledge. Like, there's never been a game made by Unity.
Right.
Specifically. So yeah, it's very good. It can only mean good things for the future of gaming, because the more standardized we get tools like I think of it this way: like anybody who's edited audio knows that there is a waveform editor, a linear time editor where you can see the forms, you can drag the thing, you know where exactly you can edit that audio. And I don't know exactly where that originated in the history of tech, but it's like everybody has a linear editor now if you want to professionally edit audio or even, you know, middle tier dabble in it because it's how you do it the best, right? And having a unified game engine like Unity, where you have drag and drop tools that the engine is written in such a way that, it doesn't like, oh, you change this thing, it doesn't break the game engine because it's some custom piece of code. The engine itself is sophisticated enough to handle changes. Because one of the things that I've seen in years as someone who was originally interested in becoming a game developer and designer myself, in the 90s, it's like tools were very limited and you needed to know a fuckload of math to make anything happen. Now, an artist may just need to have an art and design degree to use Unreal because they don't need to necessarily know code.
Right.
Because the engine is handling scripting things via, a plug and play approach.
And even that, when it comes to character modeling, you already have a bunch of preset animations, for lack of a better term, motion capture.
Yeah, that are like
motion
driven
capture
by
library.
fucking AI and bone density and shit like that.
Right.
It's insane.
You build your model to you build your model to the skeleton, and you've got a walking character.
Sure, and it's one of those things that's like, we look at Halo Infinite, which I'm sure will come up in the chat here if we even want to use that as a segue, actually. One of the reasons Halo Infinite took so long, they're using a new engine for the first time in Halo history. And they didn't use Unreal and they didn't use Unity. They had to go build a Halo engine.
Right.
Because that group of developers determined that was the best way forward for making Halo. It was a conscious choice. Sure, they could have used Unity. They could have used Unreal. Easy. Microsoft, I'm sure, has those licensed already to any of their developers that want to use them because it's Microsoft. But they didn't. They chose to make an engine. And my understanding of making a functioning game engine that's 3D at the level that's needed for AAA, you're looking at least 2 to 3 years of just R&D time. So you're figuring out the technological components that you need, that you then need to code and design and build, and to make sure that part doesn't fuck the other part of the engine, and that they all work in copacetic.
And again,
harmony.
it comes from, and Bungie has the same thing going. They they have a lot of experience building the first engine, so it's not like they're starting necessarily. Yes, they're starting from scratch on a code level, but on a knowledge level.
Sure. And that was one of the reasons too, again, same conversation, why Destiny took a long time to come out, was because when they turned over Halo, they had to turn over the engine too. They couldn't use the Halo engine, which was called Kablam. So Destiny had to start with a new game engine.
Right.
So, yeah. It's a whole...
And they're still using
whole thing.
Still using that same engine.
What, the Destiny engine? Well, I mean,
it's been
yes
optimized,
and no. It's had some retrofits.
Yes,
of significant portion.
But all it takes is one Telesto to bring it all crumbling down.
And just going back to game dev stories that I've probably said on the show before, but it bears reiterating. There was a bee in Skyrim that broke the intro every single time that nobody knew about because somebody placed a bee in a forest and the code replicated it right in the start of the cutscene. And because it was a tiny little 3D object, but it had collision on, it would fuck that cart right in the famous intro of Skyrim. The same goes for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was a wild thing for Nintendo to do since they'd never done an open world game before. And actually had another one of their studios that they own that does do open worlds, Monolith Soft, who does my Xenoblade Chronicle games, which are open world. They helped out on the development cycle of that, and they're listed prominently in the credits, though it's not advertised on the box, of course. And they talked about a pot that they put in a dungeon, and then all of the horses were flying 6 feet off the ground, and nobody could figure it out.
Speaking of which, I actually ran into, and we're going to tie this right back to Forza.
Okay.
I ran into a bug, a glitch, and unfortunately, I didn't have the wherewithal to capture it. But the first time, have you opened up street racing yet?
What, like drag racing?
No, the street racing area.
I don't know.
Okay, probably not, because you would know. But one of the cut sequences, I'm talking to the guy that, you have your intro to the area and you do a thing, right? When you do the off-road one, you talk to a guy and you do a thing and you drive along with him to the new area. I'm doing the street race one, and here's the cut sequence. It's me talking to this person, and both of our cars are literally sitting in the air at shoulder height during the cutscene. Then it transitions to in-car. We're still in the air. So our race literally started with both of our cars dropping from 5 feet in the air to the ground and going. It was one of the funniest things I'd seen. Because it was just like, that was just like, I don't know what I did to cause that to happen. I haven't seen anyone mention it. So, and sadly, I didn't capture it. But yeah, there you go. If a bee farts in a forest, horses fly over, broken pots. Like, you never know what that one thing is. And that is, and that's why looking at something like the Unreal or the Unity engine that does a lot of that work for you. It tidies up a lot of loose ends where you can literally just place an environment, and then it does the code the rest of the way, so that you don't have to worry about something as stupid as a broken pot in dungeon number 43 making a horse fly.
Yeah. Okay, so I finally figured it out, which is more complicated than just going to their website or their Wikipedia. So Unity started as a Denmark company in 2004 from Over the Edge Entertainment.
Okay.
In 2007, they moved to America, changed their name to Unity Technologies, and are currently doing business out of San Francisco, which is obviously a tech hub. So there you go.
Nice.
So, yeah. There you go. Oh, and then one last note on Unity in terms of, because some people do shit on it for being not as good as Unreal. Take a look at Genshin Impact. That's powered by Unity, and it's fucking gorgeous.
Right?
It's crazy gorgeous, and it runs well. So just saying, just saying. All right. Spinning again? Or are we tossing the ball? I don't even know what the fuck we're doing now. What are we doing?
I think we've covered all the categories, haven't we?
Well, we have, but there's plenty of more things to talk about in entertainment and video games.
I think we can at this point we can go off script here and just go. The one of the more I don't know how you put this gently, but the Glenn DeVries article that you posted in Entertainment that's just heartbreaking.
Which one? Oh,
Glenn DeVries dies in a plane crash, and
up.
he was and he's one of the I guess civilians that went on the Blue Origin flight.
So they're not technically, because they're still certified as an astronaut,
right?
So I believe it was the captain astronaut, Glenn DeVries, who just flew with William Shatner into fucking space on Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin.
Dies in a small plane crash.
Yeah, him and another guy, they were in a Cessna, and it crashed into in a public park.
Right.
And as of yesterday, because It was very recent. They're still discovering whether, like, the engine shit the bed, or they
Right.
had a bad airstream or something. But they're both dead, and it's fucking shitty.
Yeah, and this is in New Jersey, so it's not like they were
Yeah.
out in the middle of Nebraska where there were you could land in a lot of places. They had to
Yeah.
land in a park in New Jersey.
Sure. So, I mean, one could assume something bad happened.
Yeah.
And they were trying to avoid civilians. I
Which,
would guess,
kudos,
maybe.
right?
Sure. As of the report, nobody else got hurt, but still, it's fucking insane to me that it's like, last week you flew on a rocket
Mm-hmm.
into space, landed said rocket, and then something happens
Cessna
with your
took you out.
fucking
Yeah.
Cessna.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, and that's the only reason like I
fucking
even wanted to
stupid.
bring that up is just the shitty irony of that.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, fuck, I can only imagine, like,
that'd be like Usain Bolt getting paralyzed for falling down a flight of stairs right after winning a gold medal in the Olympics. Right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about
Ugh.
it. I mean, that's what I know about the story. It's fucking shitty. My heart goes out to his family and the
Mhm.
family of the other guy who died, and then also, the other crew member who just flew with him into space, and I guess also to William Shatner, who probably is just like, what? I was just with him.
Right.
Like, fuck. They shared a historic experience
yeah.
with the fucking first, I think it's the first civilian in space, isn't it?
Yes. Well,
Pretty sure.
no, I mean we've had non-astronaut, like we've had teachers in space, so and those would technically be considered civilians.
When did we have teachers in space? Hang on, I'm just gonna Google it. What does it say? First civilian to space. Oh, so it was a dude named Dennis Tito who went up to the International Space Station for 8 days.
Mhm.
And he paid $20 million to
That's
fly to
it?
the orbiting. Yeah, right? It's 2001, so
But still, that's it?
He went
Pretty-
aboard a Russian Soyuz spacecraft.
Mm.
As of this article, in September 16th, 2021, 7 civilians, including Tito, have paid to fly into space.
Okay, so they're terming
So there's been
civilian
7.
as I'm just buying a ticket on this plane, not
Right, but he went up to the fucking space station for 8 days. That's even different than Shatner, who,
that's $20 million well spent in my book.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I had $40 million and it cost $20 million to go to space, yeah, I would
I definitely think about it.
I
Yeah.
would take that ticket for sure. Also because I've been writing a book that takes place on the International Space Station forever, and the amount of videos that I've looked at to get the details of the space station right, you don't even want to know. So, whenever that eventually gets finished, you guys will be the first to know about it. But it's a long time coming. Anyways, yeah, it's shitty. So this wasn't in the Discord, but there was a shitload of Disney Plus stuff announced yesterday.
Yeah, unfortunately I missed that, so please lay it on me.
So there's a ton of Disney stuff. I'm not going to cover it all because some of it I don't care about. So this was very interesting, and I've known about this. I think I've reported this, that there's a Disney Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers live action CGI hybrid movie coming spring of next year. I've known about it for a long time because Andy Samberg and John Mulaney are voicing Chip and Dale respectively. But what I didn't know as someone who grew up on the cartoon, that it's apparently a fucking direct continuation of the show. And I was like, what the
Of Rescue Rangers?
fuck? Yeah. The show
Okay.
from the 90s?
Mhm.
With fucking Gadget and what's his name? Monterey Jack? And I was like, what the fuck? Does that mean those characters are in the film? I guess so.
Right.
Since the film is called that, so I don't know. That's interesting. We've got
Lord knows there's enough Gadget fans out there.
yeah, don't Google that one. Make sure safe filters on.
Right.
Safe search is on. It's true. It's very weird. For sure. There was several Disney stuff announced, but I'm just gonna hit the Marvel stuff. They had season 2 announcement for Marvel's What If.
Mm-hmm.
They re-announced that Ironheart is coming with a new logo. Agatha from WandaVision is getting her own show, House of Darkness, which is not surprising since she's
not at all
a blowout hit. Marvel Zombies is getting its own show, which is spin-off itself from What If, which had a Marvel Zombies episode or 2, I think. Secret Invasion got a new logo. And this blew my goddamn mind because I'd heard rumors about it, but I couldn't believe it. So Disney Plus is reviving in a continuation form of the X-Men animated series from 1997 with all remaining cast members who are still alive. What?
Okay.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I know the series, but
Sure.
The original.
Yep, that's the very one.
X-Men
that's the exact
series.
One.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, if you watch it now on Disney Plus, boy is it common accurate, and boy did it not age well.
A lot of things didn't age well from the 90s. I'm sorry.
It's true. Rescue Rangers is also one of them.
Right.
I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, I guess from like it's going to do gangbusters, I'm sure, because, you know, a lot of folks would attribute the success of the X-Men movies to that series. You know, it was the Batman animated series for X-Men, even though it didn't age as well as Batman. You know, it was certainly my introduction to X-Men. I had the comics, I had the fucking cards and the action figures and all that shit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to feel about that. Like, all the original cast members, I'm like, it's been 20 plus years. Like, that's a long, holy Jesus. Like, I don't even know how to feel about that. Like, I'm simultaneously excited and I don't even know what to feel about that.
Right. And it like, I look at that and I go, it's one of those, just because you could doesn't mean you should. I'm
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know on that one.
You know, kudos to bringing back the original voice actors, but if they're, you know, 20 some odd years later,
some of them have died.
Right, some of them have died. Everyone has
what
aged.
The fuck?
I know I don't sound like I did 20 years ago.
Like, probably
Hell, I don't sound like I did 20 minutes ago some days.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, I have no idea how to feel. And then more interestingly, and this is actually pretty cool because you can see some stuff on YouTube about it, but there's actually a little bit more if you watch the I've never seen this before, but in the Disney Plus app, you can actually see, like, they put together like a sizzle reel of like the Investor Day stuff for Marvel and Disney and Pixar and stuff, which is interesting. And I had already seen this. So there'd been a 30-second teaser of She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel. And if you watch it on Disney Plus, there's probably like 47 seconds a piece, which is interesting. So She-Hulk shows what's her name, Tatiana Maslany, who's playing She-Hulk, and you get to see her briefly.
Oh, that's
Hulkized. You can see, Moon Knight. You can see Oscar Isaac and him beating the shit out of some dude in a bathroom, which is interesting because, as I've stated before, Moon Knight is a very dark Marvel character, and it's going to be very interesting to see how far they will take that on a Disney Plus show, especially because the dude's legitimately insane. Like, he's a crazy person with 12 distinct personalities. So we'll see what happens with that one. And then Miss Marvel, not too much to say, but the teaser trailer does unfortunately show that for whatever idiotic, stupid fucking reason, they have changed her powers for the MCU incarnation, which makes no fucking sense to me at all. So, those who don't know, Miss Marvel is a fairly new Marvel character. She hasn't been around that long, or at least there's been other people with the name Miss Marvel, but this particular iteration, Kamala Khan, she's also the lead character in the Marvel Avengers game. And her power is she's stretchy. She's like Mr. Fantastic, basically. Like, she's stretchy. That's her power. Some people think that's a dumb power. Like, it's all about how you use it, in my opinion, both in storytelling and,
I sure as hell can't do it.
Right. And in this one, I don't know, it's some fucking energy crystal shit. And I'm like, no. Like, I don't, like, as someone who has read some of her comics, because she interacted a lot in the early days with Miles Morales. In fact, they got it on for a bit. And who thought that her story in the Marvel's Avengers game was MCU level of storytelling. I hate, like, I literally hate seeing her, like, levitate and crystals something happen. And I'm like, no.
They basically turned her into Captain Marvel Jr.
Right. And I understand she's going to be in the next Captain Marvel film. But no. Like, that's, and I've heard a lot of people saying online, they're like, well, the argument is that they wanted to keep the stretchy power so that people didn't confuse between her and Mr. Fantastic, who has the same fucking powers, except he's also the fucking smartest Marvel character. Like, and I'm like, no. Again, it's just, I don't know. I'm not excited for that show now. Like, I'm sure I'll watch it when it comes out, but I'm just like, like, and I'm not even necessarily saying that I'm a fan of her character, but I'm just like, it's, you don't do the DC thing and change the character. Like, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
They better find a way to work that one in for it to work, I guess.
I don't even know. I don't even know what they're going to do with that. I don't even know how they're going to address that story-wise, but it pisses me off on a level where I've not been pissed off about a Marvel thing unless it was happening in the Fox universe, which doesn't matter now. So, like, I don't even know. So, yeah, lots of
I'm looking at all the announcements here. Now you've got me down a rabbit hole with everything that was announced, and it's like, oh, Blade. Oh, yeah, new
Blade's
Willow
been announced. Yep, there's a prequel to Willow. I think it's a prequel.
No, sequel.
Oh, well, there you go.
Continuation.
Fair
So,
enough.
as a like Willow holds a soft spot in my heart because again, people of a certain age and era, that was our movie.
Mm, fair enough. The only other thing I have to say about the Disney Plus thing was that there is a interview concept art kind of talking trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mhm.
And it 100% confirms that Hayden Christensen is back playing Darth
Right.
Vader, and that Obi-Wan Kenobi will fight Darth Vader in the series.
That could bring up some
And
continuity errors, but okay.
I'm really mixed about that,
Right.
personally. And I'm a big Star Wars fan. You know, like I read the fucking comics, and I've seen the ancillary TV shows, which are fantastic and canon, and all that sort of stuff. And there's been comics about Obi-Wan's quote unquote last mission in protecting Luke,
Mhm.
and him like doing shit and killing some crime lords and stuff to make shitty ass Tatooine like safer for
Mhm.
Luke and stuff. And they're very good, actually. And I'm seeing that they're pretty much going to do that from the comics, probably. But then I'm also just like, but then how do we get to Vader? Like, I understand that's like
Mhm.
pure fan service, and it it makes me trepidatious for two reasons. One, I personally do not need to see another fight with him and Anakin, because I thought what was done on film for Episode 3
Perfect.
was one of the fucking most badass lightsaber duels ever.
Well, that and leaving it where it currently rests is like the perfect exposition for those two characters, right?
Sure.
To not meet again
Sure.
until A New Hope.
Yeah. And then that leads right into my second thing, which is exactly what you stated of, you know, when Darth Vader fights him again, and he's like, you know, when I left you, I was the learner. Now I am the master. And it's like,
Right. If
we're
he's
gonna
Vader
backtrack.
and
We're
well,
gonna
if he's
backtrack on that one. Like,
right,
what the
if he's
fuck?
Vader at the time fighting Obi-Wan, then they're both, I guess, technically masters at the time. He's no
Yeah,
longer learning from. Yeah, that
yeah.
it's it could be. I'm looking at like real here, and
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know what I think about that. I don't know that it causes more problems than it's worth, I think.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and I suppose the counter argument would be like, what we have like 23 years between Episode 3 and A New Hope. You know, so for all we know, like Luke could be 3 or
Mhm.
something. You know, and this happens quite quickly after Revenge of the Sith, for all we know. You know,
Right.
but we don't. You know, and I don't know. Like,
And
I'm
who
so
knows?
mixed on it.
Maybe this could be a nightmare sequence for all we know, and then this is all a moot point, right?
True, you
Like
know, and I think the
this could be Obi-Wan's Dagobah sequence.
could be.
So I guess
It
we won't know till we
very
get
well
there.
could
But
be. Yeah. I'm sure whatever they have cooked up will be good, and I will just have to trust that since it is in the TV show department, it'll be handling by the Star Wars protege, Dave
Filoni,
Filoni,
Filoni.
who so far is batting 1,000 in the Star
Mhm.
Wars camp because he gets it in a way that only George Lucas did, because fucking he mentored the dude, and the dude has carried on in ways
Admirably,
that maybe
yes.
the prequel trilogy hasn't.
Right.
So yeah, I'll just have to trust that whatever the fuck that's cooked up and that got approved is gonna be good. You know?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And if it's
Speaking
not,
of,
I guess you can kind of, you know,
yeah,
you can't bet 1,000.
true, you know, and you know, uh, 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 you know unfortunately, you can have misses,
Mhm.
in your franchises.
And even if and if your miss in this case is just glorious fan service, it's a good way to
Right.
miss. It's a good way to miss.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. Speaking of not misses, in returning to franchises that are now 20 years old,
Mhm.
um, me and the wife sat down last Sunday to watch Dexter: New Blood,
Hmm.
of which we were huge fans of the original series. I was probably a bigger fan. I've probably seen all the seasons many, 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 many times, including the horrible 8th season.
Okay.
I take it by that you're not particularly familiar with the series,
Not really.
other than the fact that you recognize the name.
Yes.
Mm.
And the basic premise behind it.
Yeah, he kills people,
Mm.
but only if they really deserve it.
Right.
So,
Vigilante serial killer for
yes,
justice.
sometimes.
Sometimes. Right.
Yes. Well, long and short of it is, he had 8 seasons in his original series, and the 8th season was 1 season too far. Because
But
seven of
are you rewatching it in preparation for the new series?
no, so Jessica had actually never seen Dexter
Okay.
until this year, so we watched Dexter, and then I literally cut the internet because I was like, we're not doing season 8, and she's like, no, I want to see it. And then there'd been rumors about Dexter New Blood, and then they had premiere date, and then in like July or whatever,
Mhm.
I was like, all right, they say it's a direct continuation. You're gonna have to see this season now. I've spared you this long. you know. And Jessica liked everything up to that point, and like everybody else was like, huh, that last season was really bad. And I was like, yep.
Sorry to send it out like that.
Yeah. So it's fantastic that we're back, and um, the character's time away from screen has traversed in real time. So it's been 20 years in the show as it is for us, the viewers. Um, and it's very interesting because you know, a lot of things have happened, both in that its old finale, and then just time and stuff.
Mhm.
A lot of surface changes. No long theme song intro. They switched to 16:9 widescreen, so it's got a very cinematic, like you're watching the movie to cap off the series kind of
Mhm.
quality to it. And then more interestingly, and something I paid very close attention to, because Dexter has a phenomenal original soundtrack, absolutely phenomenal, by the late great Daniel Litch, who unfortunately died several years ago. And then I've been checking the feeds like every week, like who the fuck's gonna replace him? Who the fuck's gonna replace him? Because it was an integral part of the show. Like, it has very iconic music.
Right.
It's very good. Um,
Like celebrity deaths don't really hit me.
sure.
Like John Williams is going to hit me,
Oh, I bet it's gonna hit everybody,
and it's coming.
We will
Like,
feel a disturbance in the force,
mhm.
quite literally. Um, but yeah, no, and I don't even remember the name of the dude that they got for this Dexter. Some name I'd never fucking heard of. He'd done like 4 shows to his name. And my guess
I
as to
mean,
how he
doesn't mean he's bad. So you have to start somewhere.
Sure, and it was very interesting because for the first time in the show, there was a minimal use of music. But
Mhm.
if you're a Dexter fan and you've watched it to this point, it's used correctly from what I could tell. Where there was very little music throughout out the show, because we're in this new place, we're in this new setting, we have new rules essentially compared to the old series, and I guess it's not particularly a spoiler to say because it's said in the trailer. He hasn't killed anyone in 20 years. So
It's been a slow day at the office. Gotcha.
he's been fighting the urge, so to speak. And
Mhm.
then I don't feel like it would be a spoiler to say, since it's a whole fucking series and it's fucking Dexter and it's what it's known for. He kills somebody again, and then our music kicks back in with the themes that I'm familiar with, and I'm just like, okay, I see what you did there, composer.
Mhm.
That was smart on your part. Let's see how you do in episode 2 here. But yeah, it was really good because it was just weird. It was so eerie watching the same character in this new setting, and there's just like very light music throughout the episode, and then finally,
Right.
uh,
Just enough to keep it from being creepy silent music.
uh, actually just enough to keep it as kind of an eeriness to
Right.
everything on purpose. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Um, me and the wife are looking forward to episode 2, as is everybody else. But so far, it's a triumphant return to form, even though it's in a new form, which is weird to say. So, yeah, it's a whole thing because the original show took place exclusively in Miami, and now he's in like the cold, frozen north of
Mm.
uh, somewhere upstate New York, somewhere in the middle of fucking nowhere. So, very, very literal dynamic change.
Right.
But yeah, so far so good. It's good to say because that fucking final season was so fucking bad. Oh my god, it's so bad, Nate. If you ever watch that show,
What's that?
I was just saying the final season of that, the original series was so bad.
Oh.
And if you ever watch that show, just yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. There's probably other things to talk about in entertainment, but I don't know. I'm not so much feeling it. Um, so I have been playing a new Apple Arcade game,
Okay.
and I've played it a lot. It has kept me up a couple of nights, stupidly, because it's just one of those. Okay, one more game, one more game, one more game. Oh fuck, it's 2.
Right.
So out of nowhere, this had no. Usually the Apple Arcade games, because they usually there's hype on them from like Twitter and people who are running the Apple Arcade media accounts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this just came out of nowhere. And they're like, Transformers game, and I was like, oh,
Right. Let me try that.
So long and short of it, in terms of what the game actually is it is basically, it's called Transformers Tactical Arena. It's on Apple Arcade, so that means it's exclusive to Apple Arcade for now. I'm sure it'll
Right.
come to other platforms. And it is
Sounds like a tower defense type. League of Legends type.
it is a MOBA with card deck building, power energy lanes,
Right.
placing
Okay.
units to then go crush the other person. If you look at it, I will say at first glance, it looks probably like Clash of Clans. But for my money, it's has as much depth as the unfortunate came to the untimely end and got delisted. There was a game a couple years ago. I think it lasted about 4 years. Star Wars Force Arena, which was a 3D
Yeah.
mobile like with cards with energy. It has the same kind of vibe to that. And yeah, this Transformers Tactical Arena, it's very good. And since it's an Apple Arcade game, it's interesting because it's, there's no pay to win. There's none of the usual gotcha shit
Okay.
that you would expect, because they don't. They have a firm policy. They don't do any of that stuff. in the Apple Arcade titles. They are a full featured game from start to finish.
Right.
And it's interesting. And it does this thing with haptics, which is very strange to say on a cell phone game. I've never experienced before. Like,
Oh.
so you place units down and you send them towards the other fucking side and you fucking take down these towers and stuff. You know, it's a similar setup to other games. But there's a lot of granularity in the tactics and the timing and all that sort of stuff. But when the fucking robots transform, like, it does this thing with the haptics, and like each robot feels different. And I'm
Okay.
just like, this is so stupid a thing to be saying, but it feels cool to play. Like, it's hard to describe, you know? Like, it's probably what people who have a PS5 talk about with
Oh,
their
with the new
with their
PS5
crazy
controller.
haptics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because generally, you know, haptics on a cell phone game, in my experience, are just like I've seen like light haptics on like a shooting game, or the one that I usually see in a cell phone game is just like it'll buzz if you take damage,
Mhm.
like a basic bitch buzz. But this has such like some dude programmed the shit out of these haptics, and everything feels like cool. Like, it's
Now,
so weird to say.
is this something that you notice because it's an iPhone 13, or is this something you think is across the board?
I couldn't tell you. So, being the Apple head that I am,
Mhm.
they've had their Taptic engine, as they call it,
Right.
since 2015 across the watches and the phones. It's not in the iPad. It is in the trackpad on the MacBook Pros, though. But they only use the vibration of it to simulate a click, because the pad doesn't actually click.
Right.
You know what I mean? Um, so probably across the board of compatible devices, since they all have Taptic engines. But I've never seen it used that way before. That granularity, and I'm just like, it feels good to play, which I it's such a weird statement. Like, there are cell phone games and they can be really fun and addictive, but it's
Mhm.
like, oh, like when you place Optimus Prime down and he fucking shouts roll out and he fucking storms through and whips out his fucking laser axe and starts
Right.
cutting shit. It's like, ooh, yeah. Yeah, daddy like. This
Daddy
feels
like.
good. Like, it's so stupid. But it's awesome. And I've put far too much time in it because matches are like 2 minutes a piece. And it's like,
Sure.
that's awesome. You just get it in whenever.
It's like you see someone that has uh, proper respect for an IP like that
Sure.
to use it in a MOBA. Um, and if I was into MOBAs, I might actually enjoy that or even desire to play that. Can
Uh-huh.
I get some of the people that are behind these things to make me some like battle chess games, please?
I'm pretty sure they exist, probably on Steam though.
Right, but probably not with the same amount of respect for the original IP.
Sure. 100%. And it's so funny because I'm not really a MOBA guy. Like I've played them or attempted to play them. Like if you had to force me to play a MOBA, Smite's pretty good, but it's also, you can get in there and play with a controller kind of
Mhm.
thing. Not, I'm not a fan of the mouse click MOBAs, Um so yeah, it's a weird one for me because it came out of nowhere, and I'm just like, it's so like good, and then I'm also good at the game. So like,
Right.
I don't lose that often because like I said, there was a game that was very similar to this with Star Wars years ago, that I played religiously and was very good at and probably talked about on the show. Um, but unfortunately, it died a slow, painful death. which sucked because it was one of the better of the Star Wars games out at the time on mobile phones and stuff. So yeah, if you have an Apple device and Apple Arcade, check out the blandly titled Transformers Tactical Arena.
Well, I do have an Apple device, but yeah, I don't know that I can put Apple Arcade on it considering it's a company phone.
Yeah.
I probably can.
It's probably got like a 1 month free thing,
right?
Probably built in that you can redeem, just like the Apple TV Plus that I was telling you about. It's a weird one. I just felt like mentioning it, particularly the haptics, because I've never experienced that on a cell phone.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice to see innovation made in that department because, again,
Well, and it's funny because I know that the linear oscillating vibrator that the Taptic engine is, which a lot of cell phones have these days, are very capable of delivering different. That's the point of the haptics, is delivering different sensations to your hand. But you just don't see it anywhere outside of the OS,
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I was bewildered by it because I was like, huh. It's just, it's like one of those things you're not like the first time you play VR and you're just like, oh, this is cool. Why don't more games do this? Oh, yeah, because it's complicated. Yeah. Last thing I can think of as my energy fades, and I still want to have some energy to race with you a little, is there's been a fuck ton of new Halo Infinite stuff. Like, again. And I'm just like, yes. Give it to me.
and they really have to, like, they really need to make up some lost ground and build some hype for it because
yeah, the marketing's in full swing right now.
Marketing's in full swing, and it has to make up for a lot of the disappointment, such as the non-co-op campaign being launched.
Agreed.
Right.
Which is looking more and more a bummer the more I see how cool the campaign is. So speaking of that, I think there's some highlights that I can point out about campaign that have been recently revealed. And I'm not going to say the spoiler thing that the whole fucking Halo community is losing their goddamn minds over, which is stupid because I've heard it. I don't think it's a fucking spoiler, and people are losing their shit over it.
Okay, I haven't heard it yet.
I don't know why. You've probably already heard it, and you don't even. You're like, okay, that's not a spoiler, but okay.
Okay.
If you've watched any of the new coverage that's come from IGN, and
I have not.
Okay, well then, never mind then. But anyway, so there's been some confirmations about the way the game works, which we speculated on their campaign reveal, and some of our speculation was completely wrong. So the Valor thing, which I mentioned was a thing that you get when you rescue Marines and complete missions and stuff, it's not a currency. We originally thought it was a currency. It's not. It's basically like a arbitrary point system as opposed to like a percentage of the Halo ring that you've reclaimed from the Banished.
Okay.
And then
basically it's like XP.
I guess. Yeah. So at the forward operating bases, you basically have a list of things that you can call in, including Marines, which is now new. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So you can call in a Warthog with Marines in it for the gunner seat, which is great because, again, no fucking co-op.
Right.
But then what you can call in at the base is based on how much Valor you have. So like you have a list of stuff at particular base. And this is just an example. I don't know the exact numbers because they didn't show that, but they did show, this is just a guess. Again, I don't have exact numbers. It's like 50 Valor, you can call in a Warthog or something. And then that's good for all the fobs. you know, and then elsewhere on that list is, you know, Marines and flying vehicles and stuff like that.
Now, is it a one-shot deal, like 50 valor, you can call a warthog, and then that's it? You have to earn another 50 valor to call in another warthog, or is that at 50
No,
valor you unlock the
again,
ability?
that would be it's a currency, and
Right.
it's not.
Okay.
So it's not that.
Good.
So it's you have that at the fob. I
Okay.
don't know if you have the same list at every fob. That is something I do not know.
And are there cooldowns on these? I'm assuming at least.
Don't know either.
Okay.
So that is what I do know. I do know that it is not a currency. The only currency, as far as I can tell from this new information, are the Spartan cores, which are the one and done upgrade points for your equipment.
Okay.
Well, and I guess when I say one and done permanent, you know,
Right.
it's an upgrade point essentially. So that's the only currency that is in the game. You know, other than bullets and grenades, so to speak. So another interesting thing, and then this was in the IGN coverage that was being done by Miranda Sanchez, who's actually the editor-in-chief over at IGN. She had 4 hours with the game, and she now understands why 343 refused to call it an open world game. She said that the way the game presents itself in the opening hours is that it is indeed very, 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 very large sandboxes. She said it is not like an Assassin's Creed or Far Cry in that sense. She said it was closer to actually the Batman Arkham games, in which that it has a quote unquote open world, but they're really just really large, intricately curated, crafted, designed.
I mean, aren't really any open world game like fit that description? It's just you know, the sandbox is so large that you can't reasonably traverse it.
Well, I think that's the difference between reasonably traverse it and like you're traversing the sandbox. I basically let me retranslate that. What I was getting from the new information was basically it's Halo Infinite is like if you stuck a bunch of the silent cartographer level from Halo 1 together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that level was air quotes open world, but it was just a small island.
Right.
So it's like they took that part and extended it out into a whole game because as we've seen from the preview that there's ring and it's broken up and there's like different stuff and like floating between space parts of the ring and stuff.
Right.
She also pointed out that that's kind of how they progress the game. So you're going forward on the ring and there's basically like different broken up chunks of the ring and you can't traverse over to the next part of the ring until you've either completed your main story mission objective or activated a light bridge that goes over to the next section or done whatever you need to do to unlock a flying vehicle to get over to that point. So she said in or at least what was inferred from that information was that in that sense it's almost like the old GTA games where it's like you had 3 islands, you do everything on one island, and then at some point you can go to the next chunk. And then this was also stated in the IG, then hypothetically you can go back to the next chunk, and in that sense it's more open than usual. So that's what we now know about how Halo Infinite works. The other thing that will be of good news to the fans that were worried about the quote-unquote far cryification of the game is that there is a golden path, and she said that all of the story missions she played in those 4 hours were really tight, well-designed, very much felt like all of the previous Halo games. She said the only difference was like you kind of like you do that thing and you're like playing basically like a Halo level, And then, you know, where the mission ends, you're kind of back in this more open part
Right.
of the game. And she said that when she was at 343, because apparently she was up at Redmond playing this, that the game designers even referred to the Golden Path story missions as you're doing dungeons, is what they were referred to internally as the main story missions. So that, you know, take for that what you will.
Right.
What was also stated was that the return of ridiculous grunt dialogue is back, and that's actually shown in the video. There was like 2 grunts talking about Chief in one of these new videos, and they're like, you know, haven't he like died like 1,000 times already? Well, he's never coming here. And then they see Chief, and they're like, he's here, run! Right. You know, like, which is fantastic. They also pointed out the boss fights have much better, more interesting AI than even usual, and they've got like specific shit that they do, and they make the encounters quite interesting.
Right.
And they said that the difficulty spikes are quite interesting throughout the game, and they pointed out they like went and fought a boss, and it was like crazy difficult, and it kicked their ass. And they killed the boss, and then they were going to the next mission, and then there's like apparently there's like random patrols of, you know, baddies, and they encountered one random patrol, they kicked their ass, but then they encountered another random patrol, and they were like geared to the nines, and then they kicked my ass. So it was, they said it was quite different than perhaps what you would see in previous Halos, or even something like Destiny. And I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'm on board with that.
I like creative enemies. I like creative enemies. I don't like spam abilities. And again, we talked about the spam teleport enemies. That's not creative to me.
Sure. And I understand your why you hate that. I, for one, hope we get some form of Prometheans in Halo Infinite, if for no other reason than to close out the story.
And that's fine, because that was limited to that class, right?
But according to IGN, they asked about Prometheans, and the developer response was they don't fit within the new vision of Halo. And I was like, interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah, I know that makes you happy, but for me, like, I thought they were cool and interesting to fight. I agree with you on the teleporting thing, but at the same time, like, you know.
And again, it's something that can be done sparingly, and it be okay.
Yeah.
When something is literally like just bopping across the map, with you have milliseconds of times where it's actually vulnerable, and it's closing the entire map, closing the distance of the entire map on you to get to you. No. Or, you know, you almost got him down to his last HP, and he teleports somewhere. And then by the time you reacquire him, he's generated back half of his health. Or,
well, that's a Destiny thing.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I mean.
Don't get
something
that
like
mixed with Halo.
Something like that. Well, overshield in certain cases as well.
Yeah, you take that Destiny filth and you get it away from my Halo. Okay.
There was an old game called Fear back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, I know Fear.
One of my favorite AIs.
Yeah, it had really good AI back in the day.
Really good AI. It had AI that responded to the type of player that you were. Like, a buddy of mine played it for a while, and he always noticed that the AI was super aggro with him. Like, he'd go down a flight of stairs, and he'd get 4 guys that would literally charge him. And he's like, I can't play this anymore. So I started playing it, and he notices as I'm walking into rooms, they're getting on the radios, trying to find backup. they're hunkering down, they're securing their positions, they're contemplating flanks. They're not just going full on frontal assault with me.
Yeah.
And that was something I had never noticed in a game, but like I'd never seen in any other game before, where if you were aggressive enough and good at it, the AI reacted to that and kind of was like, no, this guy, we've heard about him.
Yeah, sure.
So.
The final last thing that I can say on Halo Infinite before we should wrap up this show is fuck. I just had it and then I lost it again. I've done that several times in this show tonight. And it is unsettling. Oh,
Halo.
Yeah, no, I know it's Halo. You're talking about it. You're talking about teleporters and bastards and
We're
whatnot.
not talking about the spoiler.
Fuck. It was important. Oh, so in footage, people have noticed in the menus to enter between multiplayer and Master Chief Story that the campaign tag doesn't say campaign. It says campaigns.
Okay.
And I'm like, go on. And so this could be two things. It could be fans like me are reading too much into it and going, ooh, more than one campaign. That's a good way to get around, having some bullshit shit like Halo 2 or 5, or this is probably the more logical explanation. 343 has been saying for a long time now that Halo Infinite is a platform.
Right.
And that we'll get, various campaign DLCs, which would be fantastic. I don't know if you ever played Spartan Ops back in the day, but
I did not. Yeah.
Loved that shit. Being able to have new story Halo, new single player levels. Granted, some of the early ones were really shitty, but they fixed that on feedback real quick. Was fantastic. And to play like a story chunk of Halo in a single player setting or co-op setting was fucking a thrill. And it would be amazing if, there was like, some people have been like, well, if it's really going to be a platform, you can have like weird little experiments. You could have like another ODST story. You could do, a story as a human, a story as an elite, a story as, get Arbiter back in if he's not already in the game because nobody knows.
Right.
Like you could do a lot with that, or for all we know, Chief's story doesn't end with this one and he's alive and well by the end of this. And we'll get more Chief shit. That'd be fucking awesome. Right. Or, I can think of several scenes out of some of the books that are quite fantastic, and I would like to play a game version of that. That'd be great. Either way, it's good, hopeful time to be a fan. And then I would also encourage people to check out, there's been some really kick-ass live action Halo trailers that are really cool. Like they're taking this tact of like, there's some humans and they had one small thing that contributed to the ultimate design of building Chief's armor. It's awesome. There's like one dude with like this dude who got his like larynx cut out, and he's talking about this mission where they grabbed a jackal shield, and then that's what started them on the scientific path to put shields in his suit. And there's like another one with the chick who invented the grapple shot, and then there's like another one with these trapped miners that are like totally gonna die, and like, but they got the ore out that's the special metal or whatever the fuck Mjolnir is made out of, like they're really cool. Like I've been showing them to Jessica and she's like, these look like they spent a lot of money on these. And I was like, well, historically they've had really cool kick-ass trailers for Halo. Like they've never really failed in that department, that's for sure. So Well, already. Let's wrap up this thing and let's do some racing, my guy.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, this has been another episode of the 480 Your Ear podcast. I'm your host, as always, author, podcaster, and gamer. That over there is the legendary Finate. I don't know. I'm looking at your logo, and I'm just like the F and the N and the 8 and the OO. I fucked it up. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm gonna let you stew on that one.
Leave it. Okay.
I am literally gonna let you stew on that one.
Awesome. Well, that's as good a place as any to cut it. Oh my god. You terror. You. Okay. Stopped on Skype. Thank you for listening to a Dynamic Works production podcast. You can find our podcast at www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Feel free to email us at dynamicworks@mac.com.
Dominic Armato, the voice of Guybrush Threepwood, and you're listening to a Dynamic Works production podcast.
The Citadel, Arrival, is the first installment in a series of epic science fiction short stories reminiscent of the Pulp Fiction style. It's a fast-paced story that will take you through twists and turns that you will not expect, until they are thrust upon you with all the force, excitement, and chaos of a plasma cannon blast. The story follows Katarl, a nobody cog in the working wheels of a futuristic society run completely by Megacorp, a corporation that carefully runs and manages the lives of the people living under its sphere of power. On one of Katarl's few and far between days off from work, an outing he had hoped would be fun and relaxing turns into an explosive adventure that drags him kicking and screaming into situations and challenges that will make him question every aspect of his life. Watch this colorful tapestry unfurl as Katarl and his newfound allies find their way through this classic, yet oddly surprising tale of good and evil, where nothing is quite what it appears to be. That's The Citadel, Arrival by author Tim K.A. Trotter, available right now on Amazon Kindle Store and iTunes iBookstore for only $2.99.
Hello? Oh, hey. Oh, the outbound? Gotcha. This one is on my computer right now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like it. Okay. We should be. Doji. That's not Doji. Oh, painting my car, I think. Oh, create new vinyl group. It's just what my mouse is over. All right. Yeah. Yes, I can do my party through the Xbox app. Okay, I'm going to take a quick bio and grab myself a beer. All right. Bye. Hello again.
Hello, hello again.
All good?
Okay. I hope so. It is occurring to me. So I found the one bug that it sucks ass in the new Mac OS.
The one bug, huh?
Well, so far, the one bug that at least is persisting because they haven't patched it yet. It only apparently applies to people like me who have a bazillion fucking USB devices plugged in, where randomly it will eject said USB devices, hard drives, whatever, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And usually I have my this microphone's plugged into a hub.
Sure.
Powered hub, 13 port, Anchor. Had it for years, never had any issues. And I realized that I got the hard drive ejected message, but then also that, and I'm like, oh, that's right, because it's all plugged into the same thing. So
the whole hub
is... Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the hub.
Right.
But
it just randomly ejected itself.
Yeah, it's got a bug like a bad Windows driver kind of thing. And if I had to guess, because that's where we're at with guessing with the community right now, is that either A, bug in the power management software so that it's, not supplying enough power to the port that it's demanding, and then of course it glitches out when it realizes it needs more power.
For sure.
Or an error in the code, because this was something that was suggested on Apple forums of, I guess by default, there's like 128 minutes in the code, and then whatever your hard drive is that's external, it's designed to lower the power to then safely turn the hard drive off to conserve energy. Basically like a laptop setting. I've already modified that code, so it's got to be the presumed power problem. But it doesn't look like there's any issues at the moment because everything's unplugged except for a keyboard, this microphone, and the SSD that I'm recording this to. So I think we're okay.
I just have to grab one more thing here. I just realized. Oh, never mind. I don't have to go. Right in front of me.
Okay, well, there you go.
My computer.
Ah, yes. Well, gots to have those.
With my blue blocking.
Blue blocking. Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Sitting in front of the screen for a few hours tonight. Need to be seeing any migraines.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. Okay. Hang on. You give me the goddamn... Oh, it's one or the other because it's slid over. I'm changing my... so that whatever happened with Logic last time doesn't happen, where I've got... The majority of my screen is Logic. So I've got all the fancy lights and volume meters and stuff, and then I've got Skype, and then I'll be looking at whatever I need to look at on my phone tonight. Although there was a patch for Logic yesterday, I did not know that. until this afternoon. I did not look at the patch notes. So, but given the whole spiel I just gave you on the USB mic disconnecting thing, I'm going to guess that that's what the problem was last week, seeing as that's never happened before, where Logic just stops recording. You know, not without like a crash, you know, like a full app crash. It's just like, oh, hey, I've noticed it's not recording. Oh, and fuck, you know, I never did listen to the intro again that you wanted me to listen to.
Oh, whatever. I mean, it's not that big a
episode.
deal. It's just a levels thing. It was like, you know, you're listening to a Fork in Your Ear podcast, and then that intro music kicks in. I'm like, oh, geez, turn that down a bit.
Oh, it's too loud?
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay.
Everything else was normal to the music. That intro bit was a little low.
Well, I reiterate my original statement of those are all gain boosted because of our new recording level. So, yeah.
Sorry if you're throwing so many wrenches in the works.
Yes. Yeah. Wrenches seem to be all on my end these days, so your setup is working swimmingly, I presume, so long as it's not on Windows 11.
Yes. Ooh, I heard a bottle open.
Indeed. It's just a canteen with margarita vodka and cranberry juice.
Gotcha. It sounded very whiskey bottle-ish.
I mean, it's like one of those big ass 36 ounce canteens. So I guess, you know, when it's like this and it's like this, and then you do the I guess it's insulated, so it does sound, I guess, somewhat glass-ish, so to speak. So I had a crazy thought.
Oh no!
About 30 minutes ago.
Oh no!
The show that I'd like to try.
I'm in your shell. I'm along for the ride.
What if instead of solidly staying on, you know, the quadrants of topic, each turn we switch topics? Terrible idea or great idea?
I mean, I think that'll speed things along, definitely.
Okay. Well, we'll attempt to do something new then tonight. And if it's a terrible failure, we'll find out, I hope.
I am trying to figure out why a piece of software being a piece of
software.
What piece of software? A different piece of software.
Okay. Well, what is it supposed to be doing? I guess would be the question.
It's supposed to be logging into certain channels.
Okay.
And it is logging into completely other ones.
Like on Discord?
Twitch.
Oh.
My chatbot app.
I see.
And it's like, no, you're not logging into this.
Fair enough.
And of course, it wants me to do some weird image verification every single time I log out and log back in. Yes, I know what a fire hydrant looks like.
Oh, like the I am not a robot. You know what I've been seeing pop up a lot lately is that sliding the puzzle piece thing. I've been seeing that pop up on everything lately.
Interesting.
It's very weird. Because, I don't know, something about it just seems like it's more spoofable than verifying an image. You know? Because you're just sliding a piece over. Like, you can only go left or right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like 2 variables as opposed to, what's the picture, like 9 or so?
I have no idea.
It's very weird. Very weird. Well, are you ready to do this thing?
I am.
Okay. Shall we do our customary league count-ins?
Of course.
All right.
I mean, if we're going to change everything, we might as well keep something the same.
That sounds like the dude who's working in the back of the lab or like an auto shop or something, who's got the shirt that says, "Oh no, of course. Let's do it the stupid way because it's of convenience to you."
Right.
Which I don't think is the exact statement, but you get where I'm going with it. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, cut in.